Hello, one and all, and welcome to the North America ALGS pre-qualifier number 4 finals. I'm here with Eraserhead himself. Eraserhead himself, dear. How are you doing, buddy? You've been on these ones before. How are you looking forward to these games? Because I'm really excited.
Yeah, I think I'm excited as my Eraserhead persona will allow me to be, which is, I think, just barely awake is like top level of excitement. However, I think I'm going to choose to go a little bit beyond because, as you mentioned, for preseason qualifier number 4, it's a special occasion. We've got a lot of teams with very, very high stakes, and if this is the first preseason qualifier that you're tuning into, this is all, as the name would suggest, preseason to determine who will enter the Pro League. And with so many teams that haven't shown up in the finals before, an inordinate amount of them, Twiggy, I suspect that we're going to be getting a lot of really high-kill, high-octane games because a lot of these teams have the win condition of, well, you either make it to Pro League by getting first place, or you go home with nothing.
Yeah, I mean, we have a few teams that we have our eye on right now, obviously, through the last few qualifiers. They've been racking up those points. A few of them have been to a couple of them. A few of them have been to all of them so far. A few of them have only been to one. But in the end, it's all about all of these points. You need to get across that line. Obviously, getting that first place in each of these qualifier finals gets you that straight push into Pro League Split 1. But you can also get through on those points too, and that's what everybody is looking to get over the line on right now, as well as obviously winning this finals today. So obviously you can see all of these teams participating. There's a few we've got our eyes on, so why don't you run me through some of the top contenders right now?
Yeah, I think it's important to mention as well that because the winner of each week of the preseason quals has qualified to Pro League, you also get 4 other teams that are going to qualify based on points, and 2 of those teams are actually with us here today. Slepton and SZN are qualified for Pro League. They're Pro League teams after this week. Woo! All that they have to do is be here, and that's it. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they play, because especially SZN gets to play with a lot of confidence right now that I think that they've been severely lacking in weeks prior. But in terms of teams that, say, haven't qualified, that still need to make that push, I would be trolling if I didn't call out First Attempt, who right now just need to place 12th or higher. This is a team that everybody's got to be looking at.
Yeah, that's like, you get towards the end of these kind of qualifiers where you're racking up points and you're trying to get across a line, and when it gets to this last one, everybody is going to be putting on an extra showing, and everybody's going to be trying to, maybe we can't get in. Maybe we can push down a couple teams and ruin their days. I don't know. Maybe let's just, let's grab First Attempt and let's pull them down by the coattails and make sure they don't get in. But in the end, all of these teams just looking to get as many points as they can. Maybe just get some, glory for themselves.
Certainly so. What is it? Of the teams that are here, I'm going to say 15 of them absolutely need to win today. It is number 1 spot or nothing. And so, like you talk about, going for that glory, believing in yourself that you have the mechanics and taking these fights is going to be the boon of a lot of these more mechanically talented squads. But it will also be the curse of so many others that like to play these more controlled games. I was talking to a few of our observers before to set the stage a little bit for how today's games are going to go, and I expect teams like Void, for example, who have had really consistent performances, has shown up to our first and second preseason qualifier so far, are going to have a little bit harder of a time today with the constant fights that I expect will be happening.
Well, teams drop all across the map for our first game of the day. I'm excited to see exactly what the strats are going to come through. We've got fights going on already. This is 3 teams in one place, it looks like. Oh no, not quite 3, but 2 teams looking at each other right now. The colors, very confusing.
Pretty close. One's already been knocked, and this is Void, one of the teams that we said to look at, going up against Noxious Black, who seem to be getting the better end of it. Blitz already taken down, and Noxious Black, with the charge rifle in hand alone, but a numbers advantage, look like they're going to draw first blood.
Just looking for picks hit. Real low health on all of these players, but looks like Breezy staying alive, going to get up some of that more Evo shield, and that's a nice way to start off your game. Not quite for Void, maybe, hey? But not just quite going to be feeling a little better about themselves.
Yeah, but Void definitely, they can't be too happy, especially because despite their pretty consistent qualifications, they are one of the teams that does need to win. There's no option for them to qualify via points. It's got to be that number 1 spot. Noxious Black, of course, the same story, but if you've seen the Void players play throughout Series E, you know that they've been working this game a long time. They've got a lot of experience. To see them fall, It's a rough start to the day. Another one of our favorite teams to look out for, though, and one that I would be very surprised to see fall early, is Black Hand, landing over here by Mill, one of the highest prized POIs on the entire map, for the loot that it can give you, for the great start that it can give you. They land here on Storm Point, they land Big Mod on World's Edge, and there is a reason for it. They are hard, heavy hitters that you do not want to fight.
And they do need to win today if they want to get that spot. Only having played one of the qualifiers so far, this will be their second. And of course, that kind of misses you out on the points qualification. So everything to play for. And that's a lot of the teams today. I mean, we were talking before the broadcast about, you know, the win conditions for different teams and seeing kind of who's got different chances of getting through. And there's only really a few teams that can get through on points. It is really all about just winning today. Just getting everything you can right now. That's a lot of pressure.
And that's something that I expect Team Howdy will be really good at. They, as Meowdy, without Kodigami, instead running Awesome Tryhard, dominated Series E quals these past 2 weeks. And the lobbies, honestly, were not that different from what we're getting in ALGS quals, especially at the Tier 2 level. Howdy, or Meowdy as they were called then with a different third, have dominated and have shown really excellent control of endgames. Their mid-game already lighting up as they've knocked and taken down Artsy on the low ground.
Quick start to the game now, but we've got another couple fights going on here. Few teams sat around the area, and a lot of them not with great loot so far. You got some good Evo shields going on, but we saw just a Sentinel being used with no recon, no scope whatsoever on that. A little bit difficult to hit a shot from that range. Maybe not for Garrett though, who is lighting up the sky right now with the wingman.
I love seeing pros use wingmen because they just hit these ridiculously long distance shots. And since we were on Howdy for a little while, it's worth noting that they are one of the few teams that isn't rotating over to what we're expecting to be zone ending. Blackhand have rolled themselves in excellent position. They started by Mill. We talked about it. Already great loot. They've also got zone coming to them. But a lot of people will notice that Howdy isn't moving. And a big part of this is because they are in Barometer that is inside Zone 1, and notably has a beacon to be able to pick up as we go towards future zones. So by staying there, yes, they get a little bit of a later rotation, but they also get more information than squads like these will have, who are already sitting in zone with no way to push out of their building.
Another couple fights go down over here. Again, low loot fights, just trying to get as many picks as possible. One down, Forceworth taking down Retzi already. Makes things a little more difficult, but with these kinds of fights, it's such long range and you've got so much hard cover to work with, it's so easy to at least get your banner for your teammate, get it back to a beacon, try and come up with a plan, but Sunny trying to run away is going to take some shots to the back.
Nerf get that really nice disengage, and Shoreline Mafia are left scrambling a bit. As you mentioned, without Retzi, one of the fan favorite squads of this week, are also in the boat of we either win or we get nothing, and we're going to be saying that a lot today. So if you think it's already too much, well, get ready. Shoreline Mafia fortunately have the opportunity to get Retzi back into the game because Nerf chose to go for that one kill, then move into the zone play. And I can't say that I blame them, though I sure would like to see them actually get into this building that currently Overlooked are just keeping them out of.
Yeah, the mill, quite a popular area right now. Synaptic gets taken down, no more shields, going to have to get those back up, but so far they have a lock on this building at the very least. It's just close range engagement. Akimbo manages to get that shield cracked. Ooh, no kill though, but Snoopy is going to be able to pick up one more. Hopefully Overlooked can fend off the attackers at the very least. If not, get a full squad down.
That almost got finished off as well. Fortunately for Nerf, they've still got 2 players alive, if not up. The res actually getting cancelled right there, but Overlooked are going to be able to hopefully interrupt it with a little bit of a nade. I believe this is, there we go, nice tick as well. That's the re-knock on turns. That's a really well-placed thermite. You don't see that every day.
I can't. I mean, my thermites don't do that. I'm telling you that much.
Oh.
They just don't. Like, I throw them.
They go like 3 feet from me.
Exactly, yeah. I don't know. They're playing a different version of the game. I don't know. New Halloween version. Stuff has changed. Oh, man. Just going out there to try and get a bit more Evo shield, and then we'll get away with his life. But again, crack that shield once again. Overlooked. Hey, maybe they're not the most dynamic team right now. They're sat still, but they're getting some shots off. Stat padding. Let's call it step padding.
Overlooked are doing well. Howdy and Nerf, for their parts, are not. Nerf actually doing a little bit better than Howdy, not something that we would have expected. Howdy were just taken out of the lobby, and the Nerf are operating with just 2 members and a banner that was fortunately recovered. They're still looking a lot more stable than the Howdy roster that I expected great things from today. 18 teams, so we are just whittled down a little bit. The pace of the game is, I will say, a little slower than I was expecting, Twiggy, but I can't say that I mind it either, since all these teams know exactly how much is at stake. It's an interesting thing that at the start of the day, Void and Howdy have both been eliminated when we have so many squads whose first appearance it is in the finals still alive.
You can see now with the rings moving in, every team gravitating towards the edge of the map, over towards the mill, where luckily a few teams, having landed there quite early, have a nice bunker to work off, and Overlook don't even have to move. Lovely for them. The rest of these teams are going to head in towards them very slow. I was going to say very quickly, but as you said, the game has been incredibly slow-paced. Just trying to get a good grip on each other. And I guess that's the kind of a symptom of the first game of the day is you've got to get a grip on all of your enemies. Make sure you know exactly what's going on. Then you can get a read on them. Then you can start, counterplaying them. Maybe not counterplaying them, but figuring out exactly how these teams like to play and how you can get in their heads.
Bots, who were coming up right behind Slept On, certainly have the same style of play. And again, another sort of prep for today. We were talking about what sort of edge teams we might like to look at, and both of these names came up. Bots, who have had an incredible blessing to be able to work with Jalone on that horizon, and, of course, Slept On, who dominated in our first qualifier. Took a little bit of a nap since then, but now seem to be back with a vengeance. And speaking of back, we got Black Hand sitting in these buildings, as they have been, now absorbing a little bit of a misinformed push. Mad, who got a member taken out earlier, now lose all 3 in their transition over to these mill buildings.
Blackhand didn't really seem to break a sweat whatsoever. That good util usage, good sprays through those smokes, just made quick work of Mad and get themselves a little further in. We said we were expecting them to get far. It's looking good so far. All up to the purple Evo shield, and now just waiting. And again, they're in a brilliant location. So far, the map has been very kind to them. They can just sit here and sit on this loot. Guard this building. It's a nice place to be.
And it's odd to see that Black Hand are able to do this so confidently in the zone, despite the fact that they're running a Bangalore. They don't have a Watson. They don't have these defensive capabilities that so many squads around them have chosen to prioritize. And in a very trademark Black Hand style, they've chosen instead to go for that utmost aggression, something that isn't particularly benefiting them yet in this zone, and likely will have a little bit harder of a time with the particular way that this is pulling, but is that comfort that they get to rely on, and that is something that I'm really looking forward to with Black Hand's games today, is watching them play their own game at their own pace, which is what they've been so good at. Even when the meta was a lot slower, Blackhand played fast. And now that it's a lot faster, Blackhand still haven't been pulled along by the rest of the teams that are constantly searching out fights. They take their fights on their terms. And watching them do that as they absorb pushes is really amazing. We're getting Nerf looking for a fight of their own, it seems. They do have all 3 members back up off that res. Unfortunately, they're a little trapped in this building.
Yeah, it's really just been one bad thing out of the frying pan into the fire here for Nerf. It's just been one knock, get all your teammates back up, and suddenly another team's on top of you. You haven't been able to get nice loot throughout the game. Just trying to fend off attack after attack. Slayer able to do a lot of damage there. Zainu just trying to hold down this area down to very low HP. Shield battery's going to go up.
Hard pain train for Zainu. That is a rough start to that fight. You talked about Nerf's seeming inability to get momentum going. Really showing up here, despite the fact they got the knock on Lock It In. Slayer is feeling confident, pushing in, and getting yet another knock. Should be the end of Nerf soon, and there it is. Lock It In end up picking up our 16th place squad, and now we're finally in placement point area. All these teams that are still in have got 1 point to their name. That is, if Lock It In manage to survive this next push as well.
Yeah. And again, just seems to be no chance to get momentum up. Teams poaching each other. In through the window comes Paps, able to get a few shots down, but they have to be very careful. They themselves don't have amazing loot. All working with that level 2 Evo. Can run on in, break those doors, try and get these shots down. It's a good spray. No knock, just about. But there it is. Noxious able to pick up on a little bit of a stagnated team. There was really nowhere to go after finishing off their difficult situation to be in.
And it's why third parties are so powerful in Apex. Not being able to get that reset efficiently cost another team their chances at participating in this end game at even greater placement points. No hesitation, however, do end up taking a different approach to this game than many others, sitting and waiting inside of Mill, but not inside the buildings further on. No hesitation should know, like so many of these teams, that this is not where the zone will end. And fortunately for them, things like the Valkyrie will help to get them into that actual safe zone in a few minutes. First attempt right on the other side are going to have a very similar story, with the fact that while these two teams share space for now, their goal isn't to eliminate one another.
Movement all around, and again, now that we're heading towards the final stage of the game, teams start to push in towards each other. Teams start to get these aggressions going. Something we were missing out on quite a lot in the start of the game. It's nice. It's nice to be back. This is what we expected today. Haps just trying to get some damage down so his teammates can get in quicker. They're going to find each other, and the spray downs go out, but he has a grenade out in his hand. It's a good knock to start things off. Now with 2 on the ground. It's a pretty difficult situation to be in. Dol able to get that final kill. Damn Esports out, and the kill leader goes to Dalton.
Dalt's car is almost bannable at that point. That was an incredible 2 consecutive sprays. With zone closing in, Paps will have a little bit more time to make their way into zone, but it is a sort of nudge on the back, as you've got to hurry along into the remainder of Mill that's still going to be playable, as well as these small buildings out further towards the west, towards Downed Beast. As we condense squads into a tighter and tighter area, though, take a look. It's Slept On that capitalize, eliminating Noxious Black. And in the kill feed, Shoreline Mafia also go out. The fan-favorite team that lost Retzi earlier now gets sent back into the drawing board for game number 2. Well, no hesitation, sitting alongside the first attempt, still need to bide their time and figure out some way to get out of here with Slept On knocking on their door.
Yeah, now just vying for as much control of the little space that they have to each other. A lot of population for a very small area at this point, and 10 teams moving in towards these final zones are going to be just vying for anything they can. You can see Goat and Karma just sitting up at the edge of the wall here, just looking for anything, because now, as soon as you turn around a corner, you're going to be fired upon from 3 different angles. You need to be incredibly careful about what parts of your body you're going to show, how you're going to start a movement, because now, I mean, you've got 40 seconds, and then you have to move across this whole new zone. You're going to have teams firing upon you from all directions.
It's a good, nice early play from first attempt. This will get them into zone relatively uncontested. I'm watching for the knock-on saucer, but it's not going to happen. Rooftops available here, and that's going to be one of the few places that you can still play. First attempt, grab that before anyone else, and they do! They're going to have a really good shot at the end game. They got to be worried about being naded out here. The Watson pylon going to stop that. And with the fences that can now be erected, first attempt might have just secured their ticket into an end game that includes them, perhaps a top 3 finish if they can continue to play this well. Other squads that will be valking here, though, are going to be their primary concern as it opens the door for third parties from below, where Blackhand will be more than happy to jump on them. First attempt, make sure to deter any other squads from landing on them. They're instead going to force these very same teams out into the open, and Saucerer really lays it on thick.
Oh, bringing out the car as well, able to get a few more tags. Not quite that finish. That's a lot of damage done before, well, anything can even be contested upon them. Source just trying to get that advantage early on in the fight, but the teams are now next to each other, and they're just trying to fight for some space. The rooftop is a brilliant place to be on. Source just trying to fire upon them now.
Yeah,
they're in a lovely position.
a really fabulous place when you can afford to commit so much energy into uprooting Skies, pushing them a little closer to Blackhand. Slept on in the meantime, though, we talked about their rotate as being one of the teams from Mill. It's a miracle that it happened at all. They've somehow managed to uproot Overlooked from the building that they held so well up against Nerf. Yes, they've lost a teammate, but Slept on losing just the one and getting their entrance into the top 6 now is so good as Skies and SZN both drop.
Getting down to the last 6 squads now. We're just moving closer and closer towards each other, Karma. It's gonna have to get out of there. Get some shields back up. Because now you're stuck on the edge of the ring. Again, 40 seconds left. You've got to make a decision at some point whether you want to start moving. And first attempt, out of all the teams, have one very good position. You've got 2 squads, 3 squads looking down on you from different angles. Now is where things get really difficult. The decision making is going to be so important.
This play, though, this particular position from World Class, that is World Class. They have got the Trident in the best position imaginable. Even teams like Slept On are going to have to relocate. First attempt, who got that big jump onto the roof earlier, and now suddenly and unexpectedly are going to be pushed out of zone. World Class do not have a whole lot of staying power with things like the Newcastle that they are not running, but what they do have is a great angle with this Trident, and a lot of focus being thrown at them. They who claim this spot likely win the game, and everybody wants to take it away from First Class, who have now lost 2. It's just Kimchi Lee, the backbone of this team, and he's going to go down, even though he gets some sick knocks. World Class are out.
Oh, it was such a beautiful attempt there, but there was just no way out of that position. Although you have so much space to work with, you have no hard cover whatsoever, just trying to fend off every player possible. And fair play, because that was a beautiful attempt at keeping that locked down. But now we're really in the most difficult of positions. Players moving in on each other from all angles. Proficiency and Psycho are going to be able to get the first few picks. Karma moving forward, gets one more knock. That's no hesitation eliminated. Slept on down as well as Yatso moves all the way around. Shield back up. They're just trying to get on each other. Blackhand down as well.
With just 2 players left, first attempt could not pick up the shield swap, and it's going to be a very clean up for Wee Wee Baguette, who ended up taking that Trident position away from World Class. It was a great thought, a great position, but ultimately one that attracted a little bit too much attention towards them. And this is actually what we were talking about earlier, though I didn't think that it would end up plaguing World Class. How much these teams have to push themselves really ended up biting World Class in the bum. They got pushed by a team that really had nothing else to lose at that point, went out despite their excellent position, and gave over the win to someone else.
Yeah, and Wee Wee Baguette, they needed this. They're not one of the teams that can get through on points. They need to do all they can today, get all those wins. So that's a perfect start for them. I mean, the only time we've seen them so far in the qualifiers was last week in the qualifier finals 3. So this really important, and that's an absolutely, I mean, perfect play. One of the most aggressive endings I've seen, and so many teams pushed out of position. And Wee Wee Baguette do take the lion's share of the points there.
You don't have a lot of teams that are willing to make that play in an end game, and there's good reason for it. The fact that it works out for Wee Wee Baguette, fantastic. And Blackhand as well, despite having been whittled down to a 2-man for reasons that we did not see, still managed to make it into the top couple squads with a lot more kills than others in the same spots. So there is a chance that we've got good points for them. Let's take a look, though, at how those points happened for all of our teams in this lobby, and interestingly enough, for Nerf, who had, I think, the most difficult journey of them all.
Yeah, I mean, it just started off not too perfectly, and then it just got worse and worse and worse, and that's just the worst possible thing to happen. You know, you get one team on top of you, and then the next team comes through, lock it in with the ones who were able to finish them off in the end. They got third-partied as well, so maybe Nerf will be feeling a little bit of retribution there at the very least, but still, it's just not a nice way to start this off. And it's nothing really they could have done, getting third-partied and third-partied and third-partied. It was just, it all got a bit compounded, but Kimchi Lee almost pulling off some of the most heroics I've ever seen.
It was a really impressive last stand, and there's a reason Kimchi Lee is the backbone of that roster. With Wee Wee Baguette, though, finishing not just in first place, but with 12 kills overall. They did not have a passive game. This is a big lead to walk out of game one with. First attempt finishing in second, may not have gotten the second most points, but still a respectable position, especially given that they ended up taking that roof really early. This team clearly has their heads screwed on tight and are ready to take these games if they can just get a little bit further in end games that perhaps aren't so chaotic for them.
Yeah, and you can see Slept On there. We didn't see a lot of Slept On's kills in that game, but wow. The aggressive plays were absolutely brilliant. Goat put in a shift. Karma put in a shift. We saw a lot. I think we saw one of their final kind of stands through a lot of smoke, getting a lot of kills. Karma there putting up 5. Cobra and Psycho also get on that board as well as Dalton. And yeah, I mean, this was a lot closer. It was a lot slower than I expected to begin with, but as teams started to figure each other out, I think we saw a lot more aggression, a lot more what we were expecting to see early on. But I think, I was definitely expecting to see a quicker start, a few more early engagements. We actually saw teams being a little more, they kept to themselves. They tried and kept their position a little earlier on in the game than I expected.
Outside of early contests, these teams are absolutely playing with the knowledge this could be their very last appearance before Pro League or before Challenger Circuit if they're not able to make it. For so many of these teams, that is going to be the story, and we'll continue tracking them as we do still have 2 games of Stormpoint left.
All right, well, we're going to be throwing to a quick break. We'll be back shortly with our next game here on Stormpoint. Don't go anywhere. It's going to be just as action-packed.
Welcome back, everyone. My name is Melocrate, joined here by Spider Tiff, and we're going to kick things off for the second game on Stormpoint, the second game of the day, and the second game of the finals of the preseason qualifiers for North America.
That is true, and I couldn't be more excited to join you, Mello. It's going to be action-packed. I mean, we just witnessed game one, which we were sitting here behind the scenes kind of talking about it, and we were like, yo, the teams are playing this incredibly different from what we've seen throughout the preseason qualifiers, and now I'm kind of excited. You mentioned it, second game on Stormpoint, and I am just ready to see the chaos.
Yeah, I can't wait. And I agree. I think Dia also mentioned it as well as Twiggy. There was a lot more of that like passive zone play that I think has been lacking in a lot of the qualifiers that we've been watching, of maybe teams being a little bit more wary of the fact that they have to rack up points every single game. There are some killer teams in this lobby. We already know that the likes of SZN and Slepton are already well underway towards Pro League, so they might be playing a little bit more for those kills. So I think some of the caution can also be a double-edged sword. I think Blackhand, right, that was a team that you were definitely watching, and even though they're playing an aggressive comp, we even saw them in a pretty early building spot towards that game number 1 end ring, right, where they were already holding that building, I think, a little bit earlier than we're used to seeing that team.
Yeah, and I think that had a lot to do with kind of where the ring continuously pulled out towards the like kind of middle of nowhere north of Mill, right? They land at Mill, they had the loot from Mill, and as we saw the ring kind of shrink around them, I was like, oh my gosh, they don't have to rotate anywhere. They're just going to be picking up the buildings north and making their moves. And then we saw them at one point, it was a duo, and we were kind of just like, all right, you're going to have to hold on because they missed the first preseason qualifier. They're not going to be qualifying here on points. They have to win this. So this is a major win condition for them. And to last all the way as a duo to get third, I believe, that is how you have to do it. It's going to be consistency is key here, but you're going to need to pick up a lot of those eliminations as well throughout the entirety of the game to find yourself at the top of the leaderboard.
Speaking of eliminations, there were some very elimination-heavy teams towards the end, and of course, we did see that the winning team did pick up a good amount, but another team that could have possibly swept that win away from them was actually the team that they got pushed, or that they pushed right at the end on the Trident. So that was definitely a very clever play, but it's plays like that. It's plays that are kind of the last-ditch effort, right? You know where the best spot is. You know where you might be able to win this game out of. Sometimes it's less about the kills and more about the kills that you need to get just to get that place, that spot that might end up winning you the game. So we'll see if here rolling into game number 2, strategy sort of holds, and of course Blackhand did get sort of gifted, we'll say, that zone, but sometimes it can be even harder to play, right, when you don't have all of those resources from rotating to different POIs and making your way through the map. You're sort of left with what you've got right off the bat, and that can sometimes be a very difficult scenario to play with.
I completely agree in that scenario, but the Mill, now Blackhand's going to have that uncontested. We know Rack Attack formerly used to land there as well earlier in the preseason quals, but they've already qualified, so the Mill beautifully taken back for Blackhand, and now I'm sure they're going to have to begin the rotations, but as these teams look to secure their POIs and grab as much of the loots, I know they're going to be looking for those G7 scouts. You know, we were talking about what was in the crafter, the light mag, the 2x4, these people are going to be going, but now we see Blackhand is not going to have the favor of that zone. It is going to be pulling straight towards the other side.
Yeah, we're looking over towards Stormcatcher, but for right now, we're actually looking on this contest, which we did get a peek at earlier, but now we'll get to see it once again. Slept on, trying to hold it down now. They have a decent shield advantage from the looks of it. That's 2 blues and a purple, but they don't have the high ground advantage, so they're going to try and open up space a little bit here, hold tight, and that's Howdy looking up above them. And honestly, looking at the shields, not doing too bad themselves. A little bit light on the bullets, at least for Cody right now. But all of these teams on this side are going to have to move sooner than later. So I'm curious to know if we're going to see a split here. We did kind of see it towards the latter half of preseason qualifier number 3 with Blackhand and with Rack Attack, of course, where they ended up just splitting that POI. Curious to know if other teams will take that route.
I mean, to be fair, I would want to split that if I could and not try to avoid any kind of contention throughout that, because you basically is known for a 50-50 for a reason. And if you are trying and you're like, I have to win this moment to be able to hit Pro League Split 1, the last thing you want to do is kind of go out in 19th or 20th place every single map. But now you can see the rotation happening. We saw Stunny and Co kind of rotate throughout that IMC armory and take that early advantage there. Now, I'm curious, Blackhand pushing in. Now, DiffQ going to go down early. That's going to be rather unfortunate.
Wow, that was actually a beam coming out from Zednim and Shoreline Mafia, their first showing here, surprisingly, in the preseason qualifiers, already taking apart one of the teams that I think arguably are some of the favorites, at least for team fighting, already down a member, and Shoreline Mafia sees that they are pushing, they're hungry for these kills, and this is another team that doesn't really have a chance of qualifying at this point through points, since they missed out on a lot of the preseason qualifier finals. So they're hunting for these kills, they're hunting for these points that they have to rack up, and honestly, last game didn't go their way, not quite as many points as they would have liked to start off with, so taking out Blackhand would be a massive boon for the chances of moving forward in the qualifier.
Well, playing the devil's advocate for Blackhand, it's a massive disadvantage for them to go out this early. And with already losing Diff, now Yasto and Shub are just all in that disengage. We've got to get out of dodge. And maybe, but the thing is, they could easily run into another team if they keep pushing. That's one of those moments where it's like you can keep chasing, but the next thing you know, you're going to end up near down beast running into another team. And we know World Class lands Cenote Cave, and they could have easily decided, hey, we're going to push up into this moment, take the third party to you, and just get a little risky.
Speaking of down beast, MMW are the team that are sitting there. They're crafting up. They have beacon information to work with as well. And I believe they have the crafter, so they're going to be sitting tight and might actually be playing sort of this deep edge style that we've seen some of the teams employ. Rack Attack, of course, being one of them, where they opted for sort of walking into zone, waiting out the teams and all the rotations that crash near the chokes, hitting those beacons really late, hitting those crafters really late. And they are still in down beast, so it looks like Shoreline Mafia doesn't want to gamble too much with that possibility. And right as you said, World Class coming up behind him, another team that they certainly have to worry about. Looks like Blackhand is going to take the Trident straight into that team.
Oh, that is going to be super dicey. That rotation is going to be proven to be very dicey and problematic for those teams, but DAM Esports just kind of chilling here at the top, firing out that skyward dive and not going to connect anything, but that's fine. And that's as soon as I say that, look, I'm telling you, casters have the curse, whether it's a blessing or a curse, but you know that's going to happen for them, just a little bit of a rotation. But I love the high ground advantage. You're being able to get so much information here, and you can call out kind of where the teams are pulling.
And we've talked a little bit about those Valkyrie ultimates and how I think you and I might have a shared hate-hate relationship for the way a lot of those Valkyrie ultimates go. I will say, now in this part of the game, I think it's one of those situations where you can definitely get some of the best value, right? You have to utilize it for your macro. You have to utilize it to execute your game plans, not as a latch disruptor. So one of those teams has already sort of made that movement, but they have quite a ways to go, and already fights breaking out as many of these teams are showing up early once again. Tiff, no hesitation here, already getting kept out, as I think I count 4 or 5 teams that are already sitting to the east side of Stormpoint.
Yeah, you really just want to hold your ground as much as possible, but with all the teams kind of fighting for real estate this early on in a map, round 1 alone is just closing, and no hesitation. Sitting on 2 whites and 1 blue shield, this is not kind of where you want to be. A lot of those teams that have those nice POIs that you're pretty much guaranteed to have purple and blue shields are going to have the upper advantage, because you're kind of just relegated to these inadequate moments here. But let's take a look. We've got some nice teams going on. That's Bots getting absolutely tagged up by Noxious Black. We're going on the aggressive hunt. This should be no problem for them as Dalton slides in. R301 in the hand, just absolutely lasers that player going up the zip line. And you know, if Pops has got a Kraber in the hand, this is going to be feisty.
God, the first crate Kraber for Noxious Black, and they're going to try and get as much value out of it as possible. Already on the push, they did find a Noxious door. Will really just avoid the inevitable just a second longer, but there's another knock, and already the fights that we're seeing break out all over Stormpoint as this ring starts to close. 19 squads, though, very impressive. I did not expect Bots to be the one going out in 20th place.
No, but someone has to go out in 20th place, but no hesitation. Still alive, still thriving. You've got the exhibit up. Arcstar's going out, trying to connect and find some damage, but Miles doing the best they can, going to find themselves repositioning. And I kind of like this. I feel like this trio needs to play together because, yeah, they are leveling up some of those shields and getting a little bit of loot off players, but playing the defensive Watson, you need to fence up, play it a little smart, take your time at this point. Yes, you do need to get eliminations and work to getting as many points as possible to get yourself to the top of the leaderboard. But here's something I didn't expect. Meanwhile, off screen, Blackhand has already been eliminated, so it seems that their chase has come to an end.
Bots is out. Blackhand is out. 2 teams that we could arguably count as contenders in our books coming in to this last qualifier out so early in game number 2. And the likes of some of the teams like the ones we're watching right now are the ones that are taking them out. I mean, howdy, another team that has definitely some of the top fragging potential in this lobby, potentially getting pressured, and we know that the team that they're looking at has that round 1 ring 1 Kraber. So let's see if they can execute on this push. It looks like they might already have a knock to open things up.
Hey, that's the way you gotta do it. Incoming Arcstar just gonna reposition and try to find something utilizing that Horizon grab lift to take to the sky. I kind of like the reposition, but the incoming shots are going out in the form of Prob Garrett, wingman in hand, iron sights only, but let's see if he can go. Kodakami gonna fall. This is a little bit spicy because they do have to deal with that ring. Oh man, you're gonna have to reposition and try to figure this out.
And Void, actually, the team going out in 18th. I think the surprises just continue to appear over on the right side of our screen. Could Howdy potentially be joining them here? They need to have the right amount of meds, and the right meds. In fact, they have 4 bats, but I wonder if they have the medkits to deal with this right now. And 54 seconds left before this ring starts to close. They have to make a decision. They have to make it quick. There's the engage. Prob Garrett going up into the skies. They do finish off. No hesitation, but do they have the meds to work with? So we'll see shortly. Prob Garrett most likely going down here. Maybe a bit of a visual glitch, and they're not actually done here. That grenade might have gone the wrong direction of that shield. No, that's a self-knock, and Prob Garrett is going to get off that Phoenix kit, but will it be in time, and will it be enough to finish off this squad?
PK in hand, going in to try and clean it up, but Noxious Black is going to be eliminated. Now you're going to be able to at least get the res onto Cody. We're going to have to grab the banner for Kodagami, and we're just going to have to hit the ground running. They do have a respawn available to them at Antenna, but the issue is now you've got to be able to go ahead and loot, get reset, get your teammate back, and begin that rotation on where all of the teams are already finding themselves out. A lot of the teams that were in Stormcatcher have actually pushed out towards the right, and there's like 7 people. Oh, thank you so much, production, for giving us the overview of where that ring is pulling, kind of towards the right. And you can see Season and Co are coming in from the north side. And a lot of teams are still making their way down through Thunderwatch. So you're going to have a massive area of these individual chokeholds that are going to get really fight intensive.
You can see already how familiar these teams are with these rings. I mean, just how crowded those buildings are. Everyone knows where this thing is going. Death boxes are left and right already. SZN, one of the teams that is looking to play spoiler for all of the teams that rotate in late. And this is definitely on brand for them. They have not switched it up at all here. They're holding out the edge. They want to clear their back from the likes of MMW, of course, who is up there. Well, there's at least one more team. That's going to be Skies, who also has been doing surprisingly well, I think, for relative newcomers to the competitive scene. They've had some pretty decent performances, but now they have plenty of very hungry teams to deal with it. So it'll be up to them to kind of convert some of these plays. Right now, being converted into death boxes is Goat and the rest of this team. Lock it in doing damage.
Lock it in, Shoreline Mafia. This is a 3-way battle right now, and it's going to get incredibly feisty. I love Lock It In's position here just outside of Command Center because you have the high ground. You can oversee what is happening, and you can see right there Slayer going to put the finishing touches in on Goat, and now everyone's just kind of chilling back in there trying to stay alive, but they're going to have to come in at one point. And you mentioned the Valk ult and all of that, like, this would be the moment, right? Try to get to a safe area and just Valk ult out of that. That would be the 50-50 chance that I would want you to take it in, because Lock It In right now is just locked in, waiting for them to enter the ring. And now, if you could Valk ult over them and maybe take the fight that way, sure, it'd be a little dicey and you're still rolling a card at that point, but it's a better fight than pushing into the ring.
Yeah, and it gets really difficult at this point, right? We have kind of entered that territory where the Valk ultimate just becomes very coin flippy, because you're not just dealing with the crowd of teams that have already taken residence up in ring number 4 and in that general vicinity where we know this is ending. You're also at the mercy, unfortunately, of some of the teams that are hunting on the edge. We already saw that MMW is up on that northwest side over towards Command Center. SZN loves to hunt down teams that are late to their rotations. We already saw Prob Garrett's team almost dropping on edge and are having to force their way in right now, likely meeting world class in their path. So the crowding combined with the amount of pressure that these teams are about to exert, it's going to be too much, and many teams are about to break.
Yeah, I think these are the moments where you're going to find out who's going to be able to thrive world class on your screen right now. Engaging in a little bit of a scuffle, some clean shots onto that team in front of them. Kim going to reposition and take the high ground via the grab lift. A nice knock onto Cody, answering back, looking for the fight onto the player in front of that. Sears trying to go down, and you can see the trade comes in, and Jelly trying to put the finishing touches, going to go ahead and get rid of that exhibit, which is going to benefit them. The reset coming in strong, and I'm looking at the map here, Mello, and hear me out. Our map 1 winners have already fallen. Wee Wee Baguette is no longer existing here in map number 2, and they started out so strong, but we mentioned it before the game here. Consistency is going to be key, while World Class is just absolutely cleaning up. We saw just how strong and how the end game here. I mean, I say how strong, but just really trying to thirst that player with that PK and just doing the most they can. I don't know why.
Yeah, and I mean, World Class is one of those teams where we've seen they know the map, they know their rotation. So all of these kills that they're picking up, absolutely critical that they execute when they can pick up those kills. It is so important that they soak up those points. Playing this style, right? They have to punish the teams that are late to the draw. They have to punish the teams that took bad fights in the mid game before they can, you know, make their way into the late game. That's going to be a team less that you have to deal with. That's going to be a team that's not going to pressure your walk in, and obviously having your back clear is a massive boon when you have teams already so crowded. And I mean, look at the way Void, or not, excuse me, that's not Void, the way that the team on the corner here in front of Damn Esports has just held on for dear life. I think we saw them at the beginning of Ring 1 close, and they're still there.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, just hold your positionings at this point. Play it smart. Take fights that are going to provide meaningful engagements. Because if you fight at this point in time, you risk getting third-partied or completely aped by the other teams. And you're going to, chances are, you're going to share a lot of the real estate in some of these buildings. You can see that that team is playing with the team directly above them. Shoreline Mafia has been able to get inside the ring, reposition themselves, and now, look, they're actually gatekeeping Orioles and Zainu. And look at the exhibit coming out. Now they've got all of the information.
Yeah, Shoreline Mafia definitely knows how to take these 3v3s, but at the risk of a third party, we know there are teams on the prowl. So this is going to have to be now or never. They have to hold their back. They have to pressure this. And in fact, they forced this team into a Valk ultimate. We are ring 4, and this Valk is going to have very few places left to land as they take to the skies. They are hunting, searching, praying that they survive the drop and find a place where they can heal on up. It looks like the middle of the road is going to be the only place where they can drop, and already dropping 1 member down, 2 members down, lock it in, down to just Zainu now, and so many teams are more than willing and happy to take this KP.
I mean, to be fair, the team that is looking at them and just easy KP now able to get Slayer's banner, but I don't know if they're going to be able to get the reset and the res onto Orioles because that team has locked it in their sights. And if you're just utilizing this little tree stump for cover, sure, that team is not going to leave their position to completely ape you, but they're going to use missile swarms, arc stars, whatever they can do to get a cheeky line of sight on you. And Shoreline Mafia on your screen right now, trying to find an entryway into that next ring. You can see it's going to keep pulling into those 2 buildings, which are inhabited by 2 to 3 teams, with SCN trying to make a play from the north side, but they're completely free on their end as well. But here, let's see what Shoreline Mafia can make happen.
Yeah, and this is actually Nerf that they're looking down on the team that has been holding in this corner with that Watson fence, but it might not be enough here. Shoreline Mafia, beautiful beams coming out from Stunny, and now with the walk-up, those are very unhealthy members of Nerf. Look at the beams with the hit fire. That's going to be so much damage. Down, but not out, 2 members, and we know that Skies are right behind him, so Shoreline Mafia have to clean this up quick, lest they be thirded, excuse me, from this position. But if they're able to execute this, they might have a walk into ring. It looks like World Class isn't going to let that happen for free, though. They are on the hunt for the third party.
Oh, this is going to be dicey. I feel like anytime you take a Valk ult just to kind of as a defensive maneuver and get out of dodge, they're going to have everyone in that lobby at this point looking at you. And now World Class Jelly on your screen, just being inundated by the majority of the lobby, going to be forced to reposition and try to get some bats off. And meanwhile, Nerf, Howdy, falling all at the moment. Blossom's going to get the knock on to Stunny, so you know that Shoreline Mafia was not able to get it, but him on your screen just absolutely beaming with the R301. I really like the positioning here, despite not owning a building. They are just playing the edge of this and trying to stay out of the line of sight. Missile swarm and everything providing such good amounts of information paired with that seer. Well, I'm not going to say it, but I mean, we all know it's basically wall hacks, right? Like.
Oh, yeah. And right now we're seeing this sort of play. This is the way that you want to play Edge, right? World Class right now is swinging and third-party timing everything that they need to clear the rotation. And right now, SZN and World Class are about to make a Storm Point sandwich out of the remaining teams. They have all managed to move their way away from the buildings that they were at over on the eastern side. This ring did bounce just enough for these teams to have to sort of tuck tail and leave, find a new home. Overlooked ENT, one of those teams that is holding the roof, but you can't really hold this for free. They're being pressured by SZN. They're about to get looked at by so many squads, and that Watson will potentially help them out if they have that generator, but without it, I could very well see many teams climbing and attacking these spots. There is very little room left to live on Storm Point, and we are just down to 15 seconds before this ring closes.
You know what? I like it. The only thing I have an issue about the teams that are playing those real estate inside of the zone, right, is do you rotate too early? We saw what happened to World Class in map number 1. They were holding the Trident just on the outside, but they got pinched and sandwiched, and that could happen. But Snoopy, in the meantime, is just living the best charge rifle Charlie life, and now SCN making a play and rotating in because they are going to have to. And just look at the ring. So many people inside this building, but SCN just relatively free on the side of this building until someone looks over here at them, and that's what I'd be scared of. But no one wants to lose their positioning just yet.
They don't have ultimates to work with either. It looks like maybe a Seer ultimate potentially, and obviously Kenny's ultimate is not going to be utilized here. At least I'd hope they're not going to use it as that last-ditch effort. Look at what's going on the edge, though. World Class potentially too late to the punch. They won't be part of that sandwich. In fact, they'll be thrown straight into the dumpster. 9th place for them. Overlooked ENT continues to hold this spot and continues to pressure, which is so critical. You can't just hold the zone. You have to be proactive. You have to make sure that all of these rotations are being punished as best you can. SDN, another team, might have been a little too late. Akulo trying to save it with some beams coming out of the R301, but they still don't have a spot to play.
Yeah, they are just trying to find any cover that they had the ability to do so and not able to keep fully healed up, which I think is going to be really critical here. If you can stay as a full 3-man stack towards the end, meanwhile, DAM Esports is going to be eliminated. 7 squads remaining here in map number 2 of the Apex Legends Global Series, preseason qual number 4, and I feel like this is where the chaos is about to ensue. I told you this is one of my favorite things, Mello, about Apex, is the end game circles where it's just pure chaos. So I feel like we're getting a little bit of calm before the storms. I can't believe that SCN was actually able to fully reset without getting inundated with Arc Stars.
And that's the deal, right, is they have that Bangalore to sort of cover their tracks a little bit, but also Overlooked ENT, as well as the other squad that's looking across the way up on that roof. They understand that they kind of have to hold onto some of those resources. If they overcommit, suddenly they don't have anything to work with in that end game where they might be able to pop those Arc Stars, those grenades, over towards the other teams that are going to swing their direction. And right now, this ring is pulling away from them, so they're holding onto those resources for the time being. And right now, SCN are playing the outside of the building so beautifully here, Tim. I mean, this is just textbook play here from SZN, holding in all the crevices where you would never expect to find them. They have 3 red shields to work with. They might have an ultimate on deck as well, but the final ring is closing here. 1 minute and 30 seconds for this to break out.
Yeah, this is going to be really spicy. I think there's going to be 2 separate fights happening as Klain going in with the car. Just absolute beams, completely lasering, throwing down so much damage. Going to get traded out. Can Kenny and Mr. Hakula stay alive for SZN? Mad going to fall. Now you're going to have to begin to get that reset immediately. Pop a Phoenix kit. Get ready. Shield swap. What I've noticed is you can see right there, dropping that red shield for your teammate saves so much time, and it literally takes 10 seconds. I've seen a lot of teams begin to do that lately in the competitive scene, and I'm just like, bro, that is an absolute game-changing moment, and it just takes minimal time. First attempt going to fall. Missile storms coming in on Mike and Ike and Co. This is going to be spicy because they're going to get held right there.
MMW is going to get sucked for just a moment. MJ is down, and they're going to try and pick him up at the very last second, but in the 11th hour, they don't have quite enough time to do it, and they're just going to play the shields for now. It's all SZN right now, and at least one squad above them. MMW is eliminated, and Underdogs right now trying to play the top dog, trying to play spoiler on SZN, who has already qualified for Pro League. They are going to shred through Underdogs. SZN are your Game 2 winners.
Congratulations to SCN. I would not have pegged them to come away with that, with Overlooked Entertainment. Like, they were just holding the very top of that building. They had a charge rifle, they had a G7 Scout, they had the Watson Jenny, they had the fences, and they were holding on to that for dear life. But still, the issue is when you rotate in way too early, which is fine, you can hold that with the Watson fences, but not when you are the spectacle of every single team that is rotating into that area. And you mentioned it, the way that SZN kind of worked their way from north, coming south, playing the outskirts of the building, just snaking their way in. Beautifully done.
Yeah, I mean, they executed on that power position. They had the high ground on a lot of those teams to exert pressure. Got a little dicey there as they walked into that final ring, but they were able to take up just enough space and trade back enough damage that they take one fight. One fight was all it took. They eliminated that team underneath inside that building. And not only did they eliminate them, pick up the KP, they had armor swaps, they had grenades. I mean, they had so much resources. They even had a Watson gen there to protect them from any third parties that MMW might have taken up. They might have swung there. Even Top Dogs had that opportunity, but just very well executed recovery. And we saw it there. We saw that game plan be executed once again by SZN.
Hey, that's what they got to do. I mean, it would be really cool to see them come out with a win here at the end of 6 games. But I mean, what better way to take a W? Let's take a look at some of the replays throughout game number 2. Noxious Black on your screen, that beautiful fight over into Antenna. And now Howdy trying to keep the dreams alive here against them. And that's Grav Lift, the Ironside Wingman. That just,
hit just right. And a lot of teams got hit just right. Teams that we didn't expect. Bots out in 20th. Blackhand out in 19th and Void out in 18th. I mean, these are some of the powerhouse teams that we're expecting to do well here, but it just goes to show that the caliber of some of the teams that maybe don't get talked about as much, maybe are new to the competitive scene, they are already starting to make waves, and those waves are crashing down on some of the teams that have been fighting in every single qualifier. They are so close that they can taste it here. Every team here has that opportunity. World class, certainly one of those teams that has missed out on so many of these opportunities, but SZN, even though they're already qualified, they are here to play TIV. They are not done. They're not going out without a fight, and it looks like they might not be living without a win.
I mean, that fight was absolutely beautiful. The fact that they got it done so quickly, they knew the urgency surrounding that. And then right here, MMW just absolutely utilizing that box for cover. You knew it was only a matter of time. And I think they shouldn't have went for the rest. They should have just tried to play their lives immediately. But hey, that's all in hindsight. We can see that now. And congrats to SCN for being your map 2 winners. Let's take a look at the results. Not only do they get the boon of the 12 placement points, they did it with 10 eliminations. So a 22-point game, beautifully done.
Just 10 kills. That's all right, I guess.
No big deal.
Not bad at all for SZN. Shout out to Underdogs, though. Again, just one of those teams that we maybe don't talk about as much. Doing very well, respectable 9 placement points with 5 kills. MMW, another teams that is on the hunt as well with that point qualifying system, right? They are so close. Another team that can really taste it, right? It's just outside their reach. They are still putting in the work. They are still putting up points, and they're going to need every single one of those if they expect to qualify off of those points from this preseason qualifier.
Yeah, and something that I want to point out, Mello, is the 2 teams that had the most points from map number 1, that was going to be Slept On and Wee Wee Baguette. Wee Wee Baguette went out so early on and slept on as well, so they didn't even place in the top 10 from map number 2. We talk about consistency, but you're going to have to bounce back. I feel like if you have 1, maybe 2 strong games, that can carry you for 3 to 4 maps, right? But you cannot really... You can't put up low score games here. This is the moment. This is the final preseason qualifier. This is where it all comes down for some of these teams that don't have the ability to qualify via those points. So, I mean, I'm just looking at it. I'm like, come on, y'all. Let's do it.
Yeah, and I mean, you can see the caliber of team that we expect over at the top. SZN qualified for Pro League in first. Slept On already qualified for Pro League in third, and Wee Wee Baguette rounding out that top 3 with a fantastic performance in game number 1. But like you said, I think you said it best, you can't just get one good game in, one good jab to make your way to the top. It is going to take at least 4 more games of consistent performances to make that happen. Underdogs with 1 big game, again, that's a great start, but they're going to have to keep at it. And first attempt right now, the team that is passively qualifying, assuming that they get above that 12th place mark, if they can keep that up, they will be the ones that are playing spoiler on so many of the squads that are in this lobby. MMW, of course, on deck, for potentially qualifying. It's such a tight race, and everyone has to sprint to the finish.
Sprint to the finish, indeed. And I mean, with Pro League Split 1 is just around the corner. I mean, I believe it starts November 6th. I mean, we are just days away, and this is the last moment. So, I mean, some of these teams, and let's say that someone does not have the ability to qualify via points after today and takes the dub here. It's like, congratulations, you just came in at the very last minute and nabbed that W. Now you're going to go on to play. But I mean, hey, it was just after map number 2. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm just really excited here.
I'm absolutely. I'm just so thrilled to be watching these games and all these teams playing their heart out. But we will continue with game number 3 after a short break. Don't go anywhere for the last visit over towards.
For preseason qualifier number 4, we're almost halfway through the day already. Can you believe it? We've got one more game here on Stormpoint, then we're heading to World's Edge, and it'll all be over in a flash. And then it'll be time for ALGS Pro Series, and it's just going by so fast, and the teams are doing so well, and I'm getting overwhelmed with emotions. So, dear, you're going to have to take this one away. What a game to take that second one. And you know what? It keeps the standings really nice and close because some of the teams that were at the top, they didn't really do so well in this last game.
I like that you bring up the standings. Let's take a look at them before we pop into this third game. And as you talk about, come up on that halfway point. SCN, of course, taking first place is going to be a big thing to keep your eyes on. But you'll notice that SCN and Wee Wee Baguette, for all that they've done really well, also have 12 placement points behind them. What's standing out to me right now is that Slept On are in third place with no first place finishes to their name. They're currently sitting at 20 points. It is an easy jump from there to first. It's only 7 points away. And they are one of those teams that, after wowing us in week 1, could really, really use this qualification as a boost of confidence after what has been sort of them being asleep at the wheel for the past 2 weeks. A lot of people have called them out, and I do wonder if this is the week that Slept On really step it back up, get that consistency under them, and can send themselves to the big leagues.
Yeah, and a few other teams are probably going to be hoping that Slept On do quite well because a lot of the win conditions in terms of point qualification involves Slept On winning this, or season, of course, or SEN, sorry, not season, SEN, or first attempt as well. A lot of their win conditions do, kind of hinge on some of these teams getting first place and taking away one of the that could be taken for the other teams. You get that, suddenly there's an extra spot for those points, and you can get in there, you can sneak your way through just on points, and there are a few teams here, I think 4 teams right now that can get that done. So, yeah, interesting. It's one of those situations. It's always how it is with the last one. There's so many win conditions going on that a lot of teams are going to be kind of hoping for some outcomes that don't favor them particularly.
I'll tell you what, if we were to end the games right now, there's a team that's notably not here, Redeemed, didn't quite make it, that would not qualify just barely because MMW are also having a really good day. They and First Attempt both are sitting inside the top 10, both win conditions for the respective squads to be able to qual themselves. And Redeem, sitting on the sidelines, has got to be watching this and sweating, because it really can come down to just the points and a few placements here and there. It's why I've been so fascinated by Void's journey during these early games. A team that I'd expected to have a lot more staying power, now forced to relocate up towards High Point in the north of the map because they've had such difficult starts to the day.
Yeah, we're not seeing a lot of adaptation, but the really important ones here are coming from the teams that have had a really tough time to start with. Teams that were going for, high-value POIs, and then, not having a great time, and suddenly we have to think, okay, now we're on kind of damage control. We gotta figure out a way to get some safe points, get ourselves back into the standings before we head into the last half of the day. And that's where these really interesting kind of mental games come in, because all of these teams are going to have to think, okay, what's our best chance here? Are we going to want to engage really quickly, get some early points, try and get a win on the board, or do we just kind of play it safe and try and coast our way through, get as many points as possible, and min-max this whole final day?
It's a really difficult call for these teams because you don't know who's making what decision. And if you make the choice to sit tight while other teams are taking risks, you're going to be ending up the one with no points at the end of it, because you will get pushed by these squads that want to take risks. It will hurt you, and as we saw earlier, those third parties can finish off a squad even when that team has done their absolute best to repel the one that came before them. SZN, fortunately, around here on the edge of the map, don't have to worry about things like that just yet. Since landing over here at North Pad, they've got plenty of time to rotate in. You'll notice they even have a beacon and a replicator at their POI that they rolled this time around. So a nice bit of shield bats, some good loot to be able to work with, and a nearby zone should put SCN in a position where they can play things a little bit more safe and where they can hope that that last game, that pop-off that they had to pick up the first place, is enough to keep the ball rolling for them moving into Game 3 and beyond.
Yeah, and on the opposite side of the coin here is No Hesitation, who have already found themselves in a very early fight, which is something we really didn't see that much in the first game. It seems like teams are getting a little more comfortable towards the middle of the day. They're starting to get involved with some of these earlier fights, get a little more adventurous, let's say, as they go into this one. And you can see No Hesitation having to disengage from a fight, having to relocate, but luckily it's the start of the game. There's lots of space to work with. You can go get some loot somewhere else. It's fine. You can have that part. We'll go over here, we'll mind our own business, and then we'll come and get our revenge later.
I mean, No Hesitation. It's a pretty good spot. They grab Lagoon, which is not terrible, but up towards the north of them, they've also got the Prowlers, and that is the thing that I am going to miss about Stormpoint when we end up swapping off after this game, is the fact that you can farm up these PvE spots, whether they be, in this case, the Armory that Slept On Realize now has been taken out, or the Prowlers that we could see No Hesitation farming up later on for additional loot, for additional shields. Slept On, unfortunately, as we talked about, denied that possibility, but still, with a pretty clean rotation up, they've got time to make it into the ring.
Slept On starting to get involved in a couple fights. Goat there, working with the Wingman and the Iron Sights. Seen him hit some shots with them before. He didn't really get a lot of damage that time, but that's fine. There's no pressure to get anything done so early on. Every team just still getting that loot, getting nice and situated, getting their place in the map. Yeah, actually, this is probably even more passive than the first game.
Yeah, it's funny that we hit the deck again, and we have a very similar ring pull to what we had in the game one as well. It is pulling a little bit further north, and you'll notice that it includes a lot more of Checkpoint in its later circles. However, the essential function of this zone is going to be the same. You're prioritizing a lot of mill buildings if you're rotating late. A lot of the buildings out further to the east, of course, getting a lot of attention. But this time, I don't mind Downed Beast either. Being able to sit up there and make your way down into rings that could extend into these more open spaces is going to be a viable possibility where it wasn't before. And we should see a situation where teams like Black Hand, who land in mill, have to deal with a lot less crowding this time around.
Yeah, you can see a lot of teams going for early rotations already here on this time. And a lot of teams coming mostly from... I'm not really seeing anything really from the south actually coming in late. So it could be an interesting idea. Obviously, yeah, coming in from the north. Very good idea on this one. But, I mean, again, a lot of teams just crowding that edge and really hoping for a very similar ending, I feel like, to the first game, where you were just right on the fringes of the map. You're playing completely in the open, just working off your pure skill. World class eliminated. I've just seen for M&W that was a pretty simple...
A really rough day for World Class. I think that they have been playing superbly when it comes to mid-games, and yet they just keep getting themselves sort of stuck in odd spots. MMW perhaps stuck themselves, do end up thrown into that singularity by just a little bit more time. You notice grab lift also used as a stalling tactic. Does MMW get the chance to reset? They are far from out of the woods. Instead, the team outside just biding their little moments to see when they can make this push in.
Yeah, breaking down those barriers and just trying to put some pressure on these players overlooked. Heading forward now and just looking for an opening. Best moment to make their way around to the teams surrounding them. Blackhand firing down from the other end. Just trying to get a third party in here. They probably don't want to engage too quickly. Just wait for these teams to weaken each other up. Oh man. This is a close one. Nobody really wants to get involved right now. A lot of these teams are teams that are really hoping to get good points this game. So getting knocked out early is not a good idea here. Silent almost knocked out. Shield broken.
Oh my god!
Come Blackhand! And one taken down already. Blackhand are taking so much damage and they're just going to have to back out of it early again.
MMW very weak as well, getting pushed on the stairs now. They lose out on yet another, and though the health bars are blinking, Blackhand finish off that push, finish off MMW, and managed to turn around onto Overlooked. Lasers are coming in the windows, but Yazdo's going to be able to get a single reset and make this work. Make it a double as he picks up the second res. Their third-party ability is insane. Blackhand go through the roof on that play when it could have been anybody's fight.
It really couldn't have been closer than that for Blackhand, and somehow they managed to not only get out of it by the skin of their teeth, but also capitalize on the situation to the point that I just can't believe that they were able to get that second third party onto Overlook there before Overlook can capitalize on the situation properly here. Here's Lock It In going for an engagement. A brilliant theme down. But he's also been traded. Royale's getting on top as well, finding that second one. The revive is going to come through onto Twitch. Not quite yet. Or Zainu, sorry. I'm reading the wrong part of the name.
Somebody clip that beat from Zainu. That's a once-in-a-career kind of move, even at the Tier 2 level. Lock It In on just pins and needles right now. They are forced to pop the bats and actually reset on some of those. Void are thinking about moving up here, but with just Blitz left alive after Sun was eviscerated and Burton right next to him have really no choice. Lock It In, collect another third kill, make that a squad wipe, pushes up to 14, and yeah, we're in placement point territory now.
This is a lot more aggressive mid-game than we've seen from these last two games, I think, so far. We're really getting... Teams are getting a lot more comfortable. They've warmed up now. You know, you've had 2 games to get ready for this one. This is your last game on this map. Let's just get everything we can out of this one, and teams are feeling comfortable here. Oh, man. So much action already in this game. So many clippable moments in Game 3. And we're you know what? I said we're already halfway through the day. We're only halfway through the day at this point.
That's true. With plays like these, we've already seen a lot of mix-up. Proficiency maybe giving us another one. That's a Valk that is almost down. Thank God everyone has separated now. At least if your Valk gets knocked, you will be able to survive to keep flying. Proficiency makes it to the ground. Miles getting beamed as he does. Might not make it out. Charge rifle from afar. The pylon still in their hands with no good place to put it. Makes this a very difficult game for No Hesitation. Playing this open ground is absolutely doable, but it requires precision, a game plan. Moreover, just a little bit of cover from both sides, which is none of which No Hesitation have right now. This meager rock to play. If they can get inside the buildings just ahead of them, they will have a much better chance. We'll take a look at the other squads that are trying to make it in as well. Lock It In, making their skyward dive a little bit further south. Aren't going to go all the way into this zone. We'll have a pretty easy walk in. Given that it is only Ring 2, this won't hurt them that much. They've got time to cover this Prowler Island before making their way over to the Gravity Cannon.
Here we are again. We've seen some engagements over here already. We're going to see a little more. Psycho spraying down. Not managed to get too much damage there, but again, vying for location at this point. We don't know whether this is going to be where things end, but the mill has been a hot spot so far. Goat, no! Oh, God. Ability's out at the wrong
Messiah,
time.
you get the wrong end of the car. That's what's happening there. Messiah has long been revered for the firepower that he can bring to a squad. That's the kind of play that we want to see from Nerf. So often in these quals, they have been a little over-aggressive. Not this time, it seems. Though Messiah is pushing the definition of that, going low on the outside as our Shoreline Warriors end up rocking up. The Shoreline Mafia have made their appearance into Mill. Now Nerf have got to start sweating.
Yeah. What went from a great little push there could get a little over-aggressive, could get a little overzealous here for Nerf as teams are starting to converge on that location. Shoreline Mafia taking a lot of damage from a lot of different angles, still able to get away just about. Not looking good for them now. Oh, and again, Retzi is going to be out early. And it puts them stunted once again.
Just keeps happening to them, and with Meowdy coming in for the long-range third party, there's really not a lot the Shoreline Mafia could do. They are now out in the open, vulnerable, and we know that other teams like Howdy are looking at them. Shoreline Mafia do still technically have that ability to reposition on short notice with things like the Skyward Dive, but with so many teams looking at them, they still want to stick around. You Nox, Zednam actually finds just a single one, and maybe that's the entryway for Shoreline Mafia. Maybe the third party will give them the opportunity they need to get these reses.
They are not remotely out of the woods yet. Teams are rotating in from the south still. We've got so many coming around from the south, actually. They've been making a conga line, actually, round from the east and making their way through the south. And now it's kind of an awkward location once again for Shoreline Mafia. And if they can fight their way out of this position, it would be beautiful. But they are stuck between quite literally a rock and a hard place.
Lock it in, watch all this happen. They know exactly what's going on out here with Howdy, Nerf, and well, what used to be Shoreline Mafia have now made their way over into Black Hand territory. It is a very similar ring pull. Despite the fact that we went a little further north this time, we pull right back down into the south and almost directly on top of this gravity cannon area where Black Hand are currently sat next to. Notice that we've also got our winners of Game 1. Wee Wee Baguette sat in the very same building that they held earlier. Could this be another win for them?
The game has looked pretty similar so far. Maybe we've got stuck in another time loop. We're back in Game 1. Things are just going to go exactly the same. Oh no. Lock it in. Losing a couple players once again. Garrett, last remaining player for Howdy. Both of his teammates knocked down on the ground. Awkward positions. Can he get back towards him, get those revives out? He's going to have to fend off a couple of players here. Maybe you can get one up. Just playing the shield at the moment. This is really awkward now because zone moving in on one end, and you've got to get the revives, you've got to head forward. Maybe, yeah, his teammates are just going to be taken out. You have to get out of there.
Noxious Black also taken out simultaneously as Rob Garrett rocks up on another squad, going to try and play this one quiet, but with how many Seers are in the lobby, it is a really difficult task to achieve. Going to get out no banners, so it is a rat from
Okay.
All right. Good, nice shot, Stumps. You know what? Nice shot.
Okay, fair enough.
That's a kill for butts, is what that is.
It's just the moment where it's just like, oh yeah, but okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Sometimes I just gotta close my mouth.
Yeah.
What?
Oh my.
Lit him up.
Again? Maybe. We'll see later. But, oh no. Oh, this is not a good position. These guys were doing so well early on. There's no cover to work with now. Slayer, last remaining player, lock it in, taken out. Such a good start to the game. Not a nice way to get out of the top 10 there.
I know that we were talking about this earlier, but in situations like that, you just have to look at that and go, I don't know what was happening there.
Yeah.
Right? There's no cover. There's no trident there. They haven't gone through the work that World Class did previously, and I think the same thing has to be said for Skies. They've taken, again, a really aggressive dive, this time landing on the inside of the building. Instead, the outside, they get shooed through by Black Hand, the same squad that was here the last time this happened. You talk about how we're seeing history repeat itself, but Twiggy, so many of these teams are committing the same errors that they did previously when they have the full benefit of knowing what happened in the games previous. Nerf, this time, however, have been a little more successful because Overlook aren't sitting in that spot. Nerf have managed to get themselves a building that's a little bit closer to endgame. It actually puts them in contention for some of these final zones, and this could be the thing that absolutely changes it. Having Nerf, having the firepower of Messiah that we've already seen be showcased in today's games, showing up in this final zone can change things for the better for this squad.
Stumps, who brought out some heroics earlier, taken down now. Rest of the team going to find it hard to get him out of that position. Hakulo taken down as well. What a shot. All the teams taking a lot of damage here. Nobody is out of the woods whatsoever. Everyone fighting hard for their location and really making the most out of it.
Nice cover from Jalone. We talked about this guy's Horizon earlier, and I mean, it's good. It is good enough to be on a pro league team, some would say, and some might experience at the end of today's games. No hesitation, whittled down to just the one member. Their position is their riskiest. Wee Baguette have gone out. Nice shot from Miles. Keeps the pace of the game going. But notice that we won't have repeat winners this time around. Since Wee Baguette no longer hold their own building. Instead, that's been taken by someone else.
Yeah, it's a decent game for Wee Baguette, but it's really just not what they wanted out of that one. After their second game performance, Miles still working by himself. No hesitation, is going to go out in the end. Difficult situation to be in. Can't blame him for trying to make the most out of it, but there was no way he's going to get past that team there. CN in the meantime, winners of last map. Only 2 players remain, and getting sprayed down, but it's some good beams from Hakulo. No, not quite going to work out. Kenny, last player remaining, and no. There's just no way out of that.
That was a really nice try, though, and first attempt ultimately collect a lot of those kills from a distance. They were the ones that uprooted our winners of Game 1, and now have themselves in an excellent position to be able to do much the same. You'll notice that bots also, after sustaining a lot of fire from SCN minutes ago, have managed to clean up the rest of that squad and still have the position out to the east. Nerf trying to push into the hand. Black Hand have held up until now, are encountering a lot of hurt, but no knocks just yet. Black Hand instead forced to throw out the Zero to get a little bit more information on the squad below them. You cannot take risks with a team like this. Black Hand are going to push up. They are going to destroy Nerf and send us to the top 4.
That is light work. Blackhand have definitely warmed up today. They're not letting Nerf get even a thought of winning that engagement. And they have such a strong position now. Gonna make their way up to the roof. The beams down on top of these 2 players are just going to be deadly as anything. And again, Blackhand making a simple engagement out of what has been for them an action-packed game.
And we've got 3 full squads left in this. Bots, Black Hand, and First Attempt. All of whom will be trying to play out here in the open. There is no cover. There is no Trident. There is just a Bangalore, apparently, who is sat there with the rest of Black Hand, and that may be the best cover you can possibly get. This is the move. Black Hand, they have taken the outside that nobody in their right mind would have been prioritizing, and they get to farm up the rest of the lobby with the thunder rolling in from above. Black Hand are farming damage, and they have so much low cover out here in the open, given these smokes. One member off to the side, but Black Hand should be making short work of this lobby, despite the fact there are technically still 3 squads up.
First attempt in Shoreline Mafia, the only 2 remaining. If not able to find the shots just about, but in the end, Shoreline Mafia is going to be taken down, leaving only 1 player other than these 3 Black Hand members. Just waiting. Source is right behind here. He's not really going to have a good time getting out of there. The beams are good. Black Hand, they take it away absolutely flawlessly. There was no chance anyone else was winning that map.
Not at all, but it was off of beautiful control of the end game. This is the Black Hand that Tiff wanted to see, that I wanted to see in these end games, and in these games, period. Their mid-game control has been so good when the zones pull over to Mill. They still, despite being a 2-man in the first game, managed to make it into the top 3 squads, and they replicate that going even further here, showcasing the Bangalore and why they value it so much on Stormpoint, and honestly, great endgame control. This is a squad that you've seen throughout Challenger Circuit, throughout all of the Tier 2 tournaments that happen in between seasons, grow and develop their end game from what was a very aggressive squad to now being a team that clearly has micro ability that can also navigate difficult end game scenarios better than some pro players.
And Blackhand today, already at the start of this one, they'll pick up 2 podiums, one of the few teams that have been able to do that so far. After what was a pretty disappointing last map, they finished 19th last time we saw them on Storm Point there. This is a very good way to get yourself back in the game. I think they were 10th on the standings before now. They'll be right back up there in contention with, obviously, SCN and We Beget, who took that first map. That's a lovely way to start things off, and it was just completely controlled all the way throughout. There was no over-engagement. There was no, there was nothing too out of the ordinary for them. It was very simple, very easy engagements. They knew when they were taking them that they were going to win those fights, and their positioning was so good. As you said, using those smokes as cover with no hard cover to work with whatsoever. Nobody thought that they were going to be there, but they were able to work with it so perfectly because they were just prepared.
It's made even more impressive when we look out at the squad that arrived there before them and see what happened. That's the difference between a squad that takes it at the right time and a team that does not. Blackhand made those correct moves at the proper moments to force the hands of everyone else. And just Saucerer left, as you called out, yes, there's no way that anyone else could have won the game. It was from the moment that Blackhand walked out and nobody took them out. 16 kills! A quarter of the lobby has fallen to Blackhand, even a little more. And with a 28-point game, they should be pushing themselves far and away into first place.
Yeah, you can see down there, lock it in. That is so sad for a team that has had such a great early game. Managing to get 6 kills, goes out 10th. That's such a stunting to the points that you could have gained from that game. Maybe the play was to just get those kills and play with the points that you have and play much safer, but lock it in. Get aggressive, and it doesn't quite work out for them. Got squished from 2 angles. But yeah, I mean, Blackhand managed to pick up more kills than any other team did total points. That's what I think. That's what I call a little bit of a domination.
It was a beautiful game from them. This is one of those games that I walk away from going, I'm honored to have witnessed that because this very well could be. If we look back on this after today, I mean, we only have 3 games left. If Blackhand can keep this up, you look back at this game and you say, this is the moment that it turned. A lot of teams are going to look back at this game and their early elimination, maybe at the hands of Blackhand, and go, this is why we didn't qualify. They've influenced the lobby to such a degree that not only are they first place, but they've kicked a lot of people down a notch, not just SZN, who find themselves in second, but even squads like Noxious Black, who were having a really good day up until now. On their first appearance into the finals, Noxious Black have shown us they can absolutely tango with top-tier squads. They can take fights, and yet now off of this game, they find themselves in 9th.
Yeah, another team doing brilliantly so far. First attempt, who have got 2 silver medals to their name so far, and a 6th place. Not bad showing whatsoever, puts them in the top 3 still. They're still in contention. They haven't got a win. They don't care. They're doing well. They're only 8 points away from Blackhand at this point, and that's the thing. Consistency is another way to get yourself a good amount of points, and they're going to be ending out Storm Point quite happy with their position. But yeah, that's such a brilliant performance for Blackhand. Puts them well in the lead. They're going to be very happy heading towards World Edge.
I'm going to put a really big disclaimer on this, of course. North American preseason qualifiers have been plagued with inconsistency. If Blackhand want that spot, they have to keep this up, because though their lead was impressive in the game, in the larger leaderboard, it is not that much. We had Slept On, who were in 3rd with no wins. We were praising their consistency over the course of the 2 games. They picked up a single point last round, and that can happen to even the best squads. So look out, Blackhand. Do not step off the gas just yet.
All right, well, we are done with Storm Point for the day. We're going to be heading to World's Edge next, so join us in just a little bit. Tiff and Malacrit will be back to bring it for you. Don't go anywhere.
Back, y'all. We are back for the second half of the preseason qualifier number 4, the last preseason qualifier for North America. My name is Miller Crate, joined once again by Spider Tiff. And after that Black Hand performance, we are already licking our lips and rubbing our hands together, waiting for this next game where we get to see if the likes of Black Hand will continue this success or whether some of the middle of the pack teams will wake up a little bit and start to take stabs at the throne.
And I think that's kind of where a lot of things are going to rely, right? A lot of these teams that have been placing in first place, not only are they getting those 12 placement points, but they've been coupling it with these double-digit eliminations. And we were just chatting about this prior to Black Hand taking the win here in map number 3 and moving on over to World's Edge. They had only picked up 4 eliminations throughout the first 2 maps. Now, they have shot themselves up to the top of the leaderboard after 1 good game. Yeah, they got 3rd in map number 1, but they didn't have that many eliminations. So it's kind of like you have to juggle both. We always say, yeah, the placement points are great, but if you're winning and you've only got 2 to 3 kills, that's not what you want, which these teams aren't doing. Thankfully, they're putting up massive games, but you have to stay consistent because, like I said, we saw it with Wee Wee Baguette. 1 good, amazing game is not going to carry you throughout. So you're sitting in the top 5, sure, but you're going to have to back that up moving into World's Edge, these final 3 maps, if you want to find yourself in Split 1 Pro League.
Yeah, and we know that there's at least 3 teams right now in the middle that are 15 points all tied up, 3, and there's 2 teams above them at least that have 18. So the race is still incredibly tight. And teams like Black Hand, that was almost a carbon copy ending, right, from what we saw in game number 1, pulled a little bit further up north. But we saw there how they're changing proactivity and changing a little bit of extra luck there on that third-party timing. Actually got them so much farther in that game. They were pressuring more, they were getting more damage down, and that ended up finding a lot more kills, which, as you said, those big games are what is putting some of these teams ahead. And any of the teams in the middle of the pack right now, any of the teams even in the running right now for Pro League qualification, I mean, we have bots, we have MMWs, so many teams that are capable of having those huge games. All it takes is a couple of snap decisions that are going to make or break their games.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I'm just like, look, I need to see that happen as these teams are jumping into their POIs for Worlds Edge. We see that ring is going to pull towards the south side. And who was I looking for? Black Hand. Typically, I see Black Hand make that move towards Big Mod, but you can see they're going to go into Lava City, and there's a lot of teams around there, but they do have the benefit of not having a large rotation, so we'll see how they do. But jumping on over to Nerf, we've got Messiah on your screen, and a little bit of, fraggy vibes. I kind of like this area of the map, and it's just been one of those things, but you gotta split up. You've got to find a lot of the loot, and what better building to jump into to find a plethora of loot is going to be this. And I would love to see kind of what Nerf could do. After 2 maps, they were sitting with 15 points. That is one of those mid-pack teams that you were talking about.
Yeah, and actually we see another team that's definitely on the hunt for a win here. Void actually just deciding that the split isn't worth it. They've decided to split completely on over towards that survey camp train track sort of area to pick up extra loot. They did not want to have too much aggression put on them. And of course, as you said, that little rotation up towards that skyscraper gives them some height, a little bit more control of the space. So they kind of give it up for now. I think World's Edge often has that effect where it kind of halts people a little bit. They're more familiar with the map, so they are more familiar, playing it a little bit differently, changing up their game plan. And I think that's something that Black Hand absolutely needs to do because all of these lobbies change. They play very differently. And at least on Stormpoint, we know that World Class was on their back, right? That's something we talked about, how their rotation isn't always so simple. They can't just take fights willy-nilly. But of course, when you can take a good fight, it can get so much value. World Class on your screen right now doing exactly that.
I mean, look, if you've got 2 blue shields, a purple, some flat lines, R301s, you're kitted, you've got mags, you feel comfortable, you're not taking fights willy-nilly, you're going in confidence. You know that team in front of you has that white shield, so you're going to lay down as much damage as humanly possible. Vans within an inch of their life force to kind of back off. Now, if they could go ahead and pick off some of the players that might be kind of split from their team, but they're now just kind of meeting back up and preparing for the inundation that World Class is about about to bring to them.
But keep an eye out on the minimap. We might be having at least one more team join the party, so World Class has to make quick work of this squad. There's a purple shield that we see inside. Nice angles here from Jelly, but doesn't quite find as much damage as we would have liked. About 42 there with the Peacekeeper, and Blackhand is already looking this way, and I'm not sure if World Class knows this. They haven't executed this attack quite as clearly as I think they would have hoped, and now they're having to back up. They might recognize that the third party's here, but not before Kimchi Lee goes down to Yatso.
Yeah, this is going to be absolutely spicy. Yasto's got that G7 scout in hand and is able to reposition from a distance and throw down a lot of damage. And Diff with that R301 just absolutely getting that moment happening. They are able to thirst out on Kimchi Lee. So now taking that high ground, 2 gold shields, 1 purple, coming in for the third party. And we saw just how good at third partying they were there in map number 3 on Storm Point. That was spicy. They shouldn't have won that. But this is the level of confidence that Blackhand is coming in with, and I just feel if they keep on that momentum, they're going to do great things. But jumping on over, we got first attempt falling here. The first team out on World's Edge. Not what you want, but Void now reaping the benefits.
Yeah, and First Attempt has done a great job of holding on to their position on the leaderboard, but with this 0-point match, it's definitely not going to stay that way with how many teams are on the hunt. Noxious Black has played spoiler on so many squads. We saw them earlier taking out Howdy in a fight that we really didn't think would be as close, but they've made quick work of so many teams at this point that you cannot count this team out. And as they make their rotation over here towards the side, they have a pretty clear walk along, but look at how crowded we're already seeing the south side of this map play. And I think it's really interesting to see that not too much overcorrection, over adaptation from map to map. This is something that I think a lot of teams make a big mistake on, is changing up a little bit too much when they move over towards the map. Here we see that a lot of teams are executing really similar game plans, and we'll see if it works out to their benefit here in the long term.
I mean, stick to what you know. World's Edge has been in the competitive structure for so long at this point. It's kind of like we've seen it, and now a lot of teams are just picking up that Seer, that Horizon, that Valk, and a lot of them are running the same thing. So it's like, oh, you see it, and Goat with the G7 Scout. I'm telling you, it's Scout Legends. You're just able to throw down so much damage from that mid-distance. You don't even have to be in their face. You just have a cheeky line of sight, and that's exactly what happens. That's going to be a knock-on to turns, and now Slepton just going crazy.
Yeah, right now Slepton is going to put Nerf to sleep from the looks of it. That's turns going down, and Nerf is eliminated so quickly by Slepton on the edge. And Slepton now has a lot of control over this area, but there's plenty of teams that are more than happy to try and pressure them because we are all on the edge. Skies being one of those teams, and they're actually opting for the Gibby, which is something we've been seeing less and less of recently, but it looks like Skies has continued to opt for this defensive character to maybe help them out a little bit with whatever game plan they're trying to execute. So far, it hasn't gone their way, but again, World's Edge, new map, new me, they might be making some big changes, some big adjustments, and see if they can find their way into this late game ring, that's pulling hard south right now.
Oh, and SZN on your screen, Klain with that Iron Sight Wingman, able to connect for 71. Mr. Hikula is going to have to go ahead and shield up, but this is a little bit spicy. We have that Crypto, we have the Mad Maggie, and we have the Horizon. So no Valk, nothing. But you know what? If you are comfortable with this and you already know kind of what your future lies in for Pro League, have some fun. Go at it. Why not?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think at this point, I don't know if it's limit testing so much or really just seeing what exactly they can get away with right now. But all things considered, I mean, their game plan hasn't changed all that much. We've talked about how they like to execute on the edge. It's very clean, very consistent. And right now, plenty of teams are doing a much worse job of that, we'll put it that way. Bots right now farming over towards the edge, and that's actually going to be a kill onto Retzi, or a knock at least, so the kill will likely follow suit here in a second. Bots, another team that's definitely on the prowl for those qualifying points. They're on the prowl for kills right now, and they have finished off Retzi. Can they polish off the rest of the squad? They're actually committing the ultimate. I don't know if you could call this overkill. They haven't found the kill quite yet, but this seems a little bit doomed.
I mean, why not throw everything that you've got in your power onto this team? I mean, but if you look at it, bots are currently coming into this in 14th place. You've got Shoreline Mafia sitting, I believe, 8th, and only 6 points are separating these teams, if my math is correct, which my math is almost never correct. But regardless, bots out in the ring, doing the most that they can, and we're jumping on over to SZN, who's still just way south in World's Edge, trying to make something happen, able to just live their best life.
Oh, right now, Plain is
say it.
not going to be living all that much longer. Thank you so much, Tiff. I love when you do that thing where you just completely smatter the team's chances. Black Hand, though, actually only has 1 member left, so this is a much closer fight than maybe it would have appeared at the start. Klein does go down to the Vault of Yatsuto, but actually just 1 shot away. The gold shield might have been what they got away with there, what got them away from that situation, and they will continue to rat things out. SZN, the damage has been done, and I'm not sure if Blackhand will be able to play this out the way that this ring is shaping up to pull.
Look, I'm not going to say anything. We're on Skies right now, and your Wraith absolutely frying with that car right now, and that's going to be all they wrote from Dalton, and that's rather unfortunate, but Skies playing the high ground of this building. We see a lot of people kind of just very, very outskirts of the ring, and now 3 teams in this vicinity. You can see Paps and Co. just pushing straight into the ring to try and regain some self. Maybe, actually, I like this play out of Skies. That's a really good play to do. I mean, if you're going to Valkyl, this would be the time to make it happen.
And I mean, they know for a fact that they've opened up all of the space that they're flying over right now, almost guaranteed, because so many teams, they opt for getting that early rotation right. They want to get in early. They want to have somewhere safe that they can hold. And Skies has spent so long near the edge doing work on multiple teams, pressuring teams, getting kills, getting knocks, that now they can feel a little bit safer walking over towards this outside edge. They might have 1 team to contend with, but overall, of all the Valkyrie ultimates that we get to watch in this tournament, that might have been one of the cleaner ones.
I'm just like, you did it at the right time, right? We talk about this. It's like, if you're going to Valkyl, you're going to hit that Skyward Dive late game, you are coin flipping. You are not, like, you should not be relying on your Valkyls, but whatever, lock it in right now, locking it in, using that G7 Scout, just laying down all the damage, finding that knock onto Sung, so that's going to be Void just in front of them, and trying to play this bridge. I mean, look. They're doing everything that they want, but I mean, if you're going to go double exhibit, why not just make it a little bit of chaotic here at the tree?
Yeah, that was tragic, actually. Void was almost to their rotation. They almost hit it. They almost got to that tree side where the crafter is currently posted up. But 1 member just getting a little bit too split up, and suddenly this game plan has gone from very proactive to very defensive. And this is going to be one of the last opportunities for MMW to hit the go button. They know that there's so many squads already posted up looking their way. They're going to eat a little bit of damage, but the Skyward Dives are coming in, and these rotations are about to crash left and right, Viv.
Oh no, if they're both going straight towards Lava Siphon, I just feel as if Void kind of cut it short. MMW is just sandwiched in between them, and Lock It In actually landing straight into Lava Siphon. So I like their positioning, right? If they're going to hold just where that ring is pulling, but there's so many people. You see Overlook hitting that as well, and they're going to be forced to drop into that kind of no-name area, dead center of all of these teams. So it's kind of like all of these teams just going to start collapsing on one another, just vying for any bit of real estate they can get. And SZN on your screen says, hey, real estate, we want it, we're aggressive, we're confident, and now just absolute chaos. Your Hakula's going to get completely decimated and lose their shield. And Kenny trying to make something happen, but it's not panning out for their favor. Now Klain coming and trying to clean it up, finds 1 knock. Kenny made mad, cleaned up very beautifully. That's how you got to do it. Now you're beginning. They even have that gold shield as a nice little victory from an earlier battle. Was that Black Hand, if I'm not mistaken?
Not too shabby there from SZN, and we see the sort of the, I won't call it tried and true, but it isn't. But that combo there with the Crypto Ultimate slow on and the Maggie Ultimate just kind of blowing up that team. They did recover most of their shields, but then it just comes down to execution. It comes to a 3v3 that is very clean from the side of SZN, and this is why they're so confident on the edge. They are able to take out so many squads just like that. Sometimes the composition isn't what is carrying the players. The players are utilizing that composition as a puzzle piece in their bigger plan, and obviously their better team fights like we saw there.
Yeah, and I think that's something that people need to focus on, right? You need to have your macro on point, and the legend should just assist you at that point. Like, it doesn't matter who you play, as long as you know to play them well and go right. Like, we don't need to rely on Valk, but I'm just going to direct. I'm going straight. We have MMW holding this beautiful area right here, which is kind of spicy, right? But at least you do have that charge rifle to be able to kind of pester all the teams in your nearby vicinity. Sure, that's going to give up your position. And anytime someone sees a charge rifle from above, they're just going to turtle up in whatever building they've got.
And speaking of teams that are turtling, these teams were already quite ready to turtle, but seeing how the ring has pulled, suddenly they have to get aggressive. They have to clear this rotation. Wee Wee Baguette understands this, and they are on the prowl for this fight. They put down a little bit of damage to open things up, but now they are walking downhill. They're going to give up the height. They recognize how many other squads have made the same decision as them and are now being punished as the ring bounces up towards the northern end of ring number 3. So Wee Wee Baguette running for the hills, running for their life. They have a little bit of cover to work with, and they have the shield, but can they survive it? They're taking a little bit of time to shoot back. They have to put on the aggression. They cannot just turtle up and defend, because this ring will eventually come their way. They understand that, and they are doing everything they can to fight it out.
Yeah, and that was the last grenade from them, and Blink's gonna fall as well from a grenade from Just Feral. Slept On gonna fall in the meantime, and Blink gets fooled. Wee Wee Baguette, you cannot live off that map 1 victory. This is the moment that's going to define yourself. You have to survive here, and you are pinched between 4 other teams just trying to live your best life on the low ground, able to grab that banner and trying to field off the incoming artillery and the Syracuse. This is spicy, but it's do or die for them at this point.
And it looks like the ring has spent a little bit too long at the bar, because we are going back on down and then back up again. So, in fact, there really is no clarity on where these teams have to play at this point. They just have to play their lives. They have to clear as much space as possible. But SZN, the staples here of clearing out space on the edge of ring, they're looking to maybe get a little bit involved. They're playing both sides of this mountain, because they know once all of the teams have been shoved out of their way, they have that agency to push forward. And of course, the crypto doesn't hurt here, because they can get information for free. They don't have to peek as far. They don't have to commit as much to looking forward. And now that they've done the damage on the outside, they might get one of the best buildings here for free.
This is the building they cleared out earlier, if I'm not mistaken, and the fact that no one kind of moved in on it and it's still free is pretty much just all full sail ahead for SZN. This is going to be brilliant for them, because they have that. They can just walk into the next ring. So now things are going to start to get spicy over here at the edge of Lava Siphon, because there's about 3 teams here, and Lock It In does have a relatively nice space just outside of the ring. They're fully kitted out. They're still in a 3-man stack. They haven't lost any players yet, so going in towards that end game is still going to be healthy for them, but it's all about how they approach it.
Oh, absolutely. It does come to that final approach as well, like landing a plane. They're going to have to find a way to land themselves in this next ring, and look at how little space is left to work with. That's actually viable. This is something critical, right? It's not just about getting in. It's about getting in and having cover from LOS. It's about having your character abilities ready to go in case you need to make a big play that requires a lot of commitment, and it looks like Skies might be committing to something here. At the very least, they have to deal the damage so that they don't get pressured for free. And look who's right on top of them. We have, I believe, Lock It In, and of course Void on the other side, also eating a lot of his damage.
Meanwhile, Wee Wee Baguette going to fall now. 10 teams remaining here in the first map of World's Edge, and MMW just able to play these boxes. I feel like I'm having deja vu at this point, because it's not like I've seen them play boxes before, and it didn't pan out well the first time. But this point, they're just doing with whatever they've got now, bringing down so much damage with that R301 silent, able to really... But the thing is, you can't push into that off a shield crack, because you don't know what you're going into. Sure, you've got that seer for the information, and you're still throwing more damage down, but there's so many teams in this area. And at this point, if you've got nades, this would be the moment to chuck some arc stars in, but now we're going in, PK in hand. It's time for the aggression.
Yeah, here is the time to do it. MMW finding that first knock onto B. Borton. That's going to be flesh damage coming out from the PK of MJ. They swing in. Void has been eliminated, but they lose one. A single casualty, and that might be what does them in. Third party might come in swiftly. There's 20 seconds left roughly before this next zone closes, and it looks like that might be what allows them to live? Lock It In can't commit. There are too many squads with LOS looking the other way. They are not willing to risk it, and for the time being, MMW stays alive.
Bro, look at Bots right now. Bots is living their best life, holding onto that trailer, just trying to avoid every single person. And now Sky is one of the only teams with a Gibby on that moment, throwing that defensive bombardment down and making a play to rotate into that open area and nestle themselves in. But they are one of the only teams that has the ability to throw a bubble down should they go under siege. But Bots is pulling just outside of that RV, and your Wraith playing a box, trying to deal as much damage as humanly possible, but getting tagged up from the back. It's going to be a little chaotic. They've forced the bubble. Now going in with that EVA 8 does a little bit of damage, but does get tagged up in the moment. And now Valk on Valk, it's going to get spicy. The bubble is down and now gets tagged up, forced to evade but not able to do it. Sierra trying to make something happen. Lock It In is going to be eliminated and Skies is going to survive that. But look who's coming. That's Bots, baby.
Yeah, there's a third party, and those Skies did so much work to fend off two full squads from behind them. Bots comes in to clean things up. They have the Rampage. They have 3 members strong after they pick up Stompies. And now we are in a 3v3 situation. And who else would it be other than SZN?
It is SZN and it is Bots. And right now, SZN is a 3-man stack, fully healthy with the high ground, and they are going to be just looking down over to Bots. This should be an easy cleanup for them if they play this correctly. In the R301, just need to get a good line of sight onto the Bots player, but they're going to hit the grab lift and go up. But that's okay because Mr. Hukula is going to hit as much damage as possible. Just play it safe, slow. This should go in favor of SCN.
Yeah, SCN now with the push. They don't have, I think, the resources. Right as I say it, they do have that crypto ultimate, and they got the beams to match hack. Beautiful stuff there with the card. This is about as done and dusted as it could get. They're going to clean up the last of these kills, eliminate the last of the members of Bots, and SZN will take it once again. The first game of World's Edge going their way, and right now everything is looking their way.
I mean, do you blame them? The way they just approached every single fight. They are so good at those 3v3 fights, even if they're coming in at a disadvantage. When we saw them move in on that team that was holding the building, the way they just threw the utilities at them, the nades, and then just came in and their gun was on point. We kind of knew from there, they had that building for free on the wraparound, that things were looking the way. And as soon as the ring was pulling them, giving them that God spot that they just had to walk in, I mean, they shouldn't have lost that, and they didn't. So congrats. They're first back-to-back winners here tonight.
Yeah, they had a great spot to hold when they cleared their back. They made sure that all of the teams on the south crashed into each other. Howdy was in the mix as well. That height can be really great, but it's really hard to hold when multiple teams are looking your way, and especially with how isolated some of the fights were actually up on the north side. There were teams like Skies who were doing so much work, right, trying to maneuver multiple teams, trying to eliminate multiple squads like MMW that were on their backside. They knew that they had to do it, and Boss perfectly timed third party there, and that was really their last ditch effort because there was no chance they were going to go aggressive on SZN all around. Props to Skies for what they managed to do in this map, but in the end SZN does take it down.
And this is the exact fight that I was talking about with SZN right now, just moving into this building, eliminating RC, and just going off. They were able to get the reset. They clear this building. They have it for later and just did everything right. And now you've got Void, you've got Bots. And I feel like Bots were kind of always in the mix here. And yeah, they got second, which was exactly what they needed, considering they came in 14th place. Loved that fight with MMW. Very smart to be able to lay down so much damage, utilize the seer to find out the information, and then push up. But here's the fight between Skies, Lock It In, and all of them. But that well-timed crypto ult just made that fight so much easier for them.
Yeah, not a sight we get to enjoy it too often, but SZN grants us exactly that. Their second win of the day is to the tune of 27 points, 15 kills. Tiff, we talked about big placement points and double-digit kill score lines. We see it here once again, just executing that edge play perfectly, and they decimate the lobby.
A decimate is just a light word for what they've done here. 15 eliminations, 27 points. I mean, but congratulations to bots picking up 11 eliminations throughout that. Considering they came into this game with, I believe, 12 points, you pretty much just doubled your score right then and there in elims alone. So walking away with 20 points is going to be great. The only thing that I'm missing here, Mello, is Blackhand from this moment. See, I tell you, I don't talk about teams, and this is one of those moments. We mentioned do or die for Wee Wee Baguette. These last two games are going to dictate the fate of whether Blackhand is going to be able to make that Pro League split or if they're going to take on challengers. And right now, Klain walking away with 8 eliminations alone. But look at the damage. 2K for Mr. Hikula. Kenny taking 2K. Klain, that's all of SZN right there. The top 3 damage. And of course, 15 eliminations. Well, of course.
Yeah, honestly, not too shabby. And I mean, we saw what Hack was able to do there with the car, and all of this team really just so great at executing on so many of those 3v3 opportunities. And I like that you mentioned some of the teams that are sort of on the outside looking in right now, because it's actually critical at this point now to talk about first attempt, because while they may be ahead in points, they need to continue. And this is, I'm talking overall leaderboard, right? This is ALGS points. This is the qualifier points that they're fighting to earn to make their way into Pro League. Right now sitting in 5th, but Bots has overtaken them, and Bots is also fighting for the spot. So first attempt has to continue to perform. Wee Wee Baguette has to continue to try and attack the top of this leaderboard. But right now, SZN is really separating themselves from the rest, and that has big implications, because if they win, that's not 1 Pro League spot earned from points overall. That might actually be 2 in this lobby.
Yeah, that's going to get really spicy because Blackhand has to win. They are on a 1 condition. They have to take first if they want to go to Pro League Split 1. And SZN can win off points. And if they, that's just, ooh, I don't even know what to say. So I'm not going to talk about it. Good luck to Blackhand.
Don't talk about
May the
Blackhand.
last 2 maps be ever in your favor. May those odds work out splendidly.
Yeah, I mean, we're always a little wary of talking about teams. We don't want to curse them too much. We want to see some games that they actually get a chance to win on. But in any case, we will continue to watch these teams and see how they progress. We have 2 games left on World's Edge. Don't go anywhere. We're taking a short break, and we'll be right back with the action.
Welcome back once again, everyone, to the I turned into somebody else there. What's going on? ALGS Preseason Qualifier number 4 finals once again. And lost my train of thought, but we're in Game 5 now. And the day's almost over. But things are heating up to a bit of a boiling point because, as Mello and Tiff pointed out just a second ago, Blackhand really need to get a move on if they want to get things done, and they've been pretty inconsistent today. They've got themselves 2 podiums. They've got a first and a third, but their other 2 games have been a little bit lackluster. Now, if the pattern is anything to go by, this game should be very good for them. However, it's going to need to be real good for them if they want to get that top spot. They can't qualify on points. SCN can. So this is so important. Again, yeah, I'm joined by yourself. A race ahead, my friend. What are we looking at here? Because obviously Blackhand and SCN, 2 big teams coming into this one. Who else are we looking at?
I think it's interesting because SZN as a first place team also isn't as bad news as a lot of people would think. A lot of people, I know I was talking in chat earlier, so hello everybody. I'm talking about what we were talking about now. But if SCN, who are already qualified off first, do end up getting first place and qualifying themselves through a win, it actually opens up spots for other teams who are playing just on the prayer that they have enough points to be able to make it into Pro League as well. Teams that very much deserve those spots and that have been absolutely working their butts off during this entire preseason. On the other hand, Blackhand would be an incredible story. It's a tier 2 team that a lot of people have had their eyes on for a really long time. We already know that bots have performed super well, and honestly, off of that last game, ended up making it up to all the way to 3rd when they were in 14th after we had finished that last game on Storm Point. So really impressive performances out of all of our top 3. Wee Baguette, of course, honorable mention for the way that they've actually been able to keep pretty consistent. With so many teams vying for these first spots, though, I am going to keep my eyes on the way this SCN Blackhand fight works out, because even though they're not directly contesting each other, more often than not, their individual performances are shifting not just their own chances of making it to Pro League, but so many other teams' fates hang in the balance of how this top 2 fight works out.
Yeah, I think the thing is as well with Blackhand is that they're a very aggressive team. We know this. That's why it's so flip-floppy a lot of the time, is if you really do risk yourself with those fights, yes, you can get those games where you get 16 kills and a first place and get yourself to the top of the leaderboard in one fell swoop. But you can also have games where you get knocked out in the first 5 teams and get like 2 kills, and then you're just right back down there. And that's the thing. Now they have to go for that. Again, they could have, after that 3rd round, kind of gone, okay, let's sit back a little bit. Let's get some safe points and stay at the top of this leaderboard. But no, but the thing is, now they're forced into it's a vicious cycle. It could go so much easier for them.
Now I gotta say, I really like that, Twiggy, and I like it specifically for SZN more than I like it for any other team, because they, during all of the preseason qualifiers, reminder, they are the only team in the finals today that has been in every single preseason qualifier finals so far. When they do end up popping off, it is based on momentum. This is a team that is very emotional, and sometimes we say it in a negative way, and in games like last, we say it in a very positive way, because they are able to keep this momentum up. I am hoping that gets to transition between games, because for all that we have seen insane victories out of the SCN, we have not, in the course of all these 4 qualifiers, seen them back-to-back, despite how individually convincing they are. And if SCN are going to be making it to Pro League, which we know they will, I want to know that the squads that we're sending on to Pro League can be consistent and can really put up a fight against teams that are drilling things day in and day out.
I think it really does. I like the way how we're ending today with a... Maybe it's not the closest battle in the world. SCN 16 points away from Blackhand in first place, but things have been tight-knit all day. Maybe not first to second anymore, but everywhere, like in the top 10, things have been pretty damn close between all these teams, and that's awesome to see. It means everybody's really vying for their position in the Pro League. Everybody wants that place. That's nice. It's not, one team isn't running away with it. We already know what's going to happen 3 games into the day. We call it at night. All good. You know what? Whatever. It's fine. This is proper. This is what we came for.
It certainly is. SCN, Landing, and Fragment are also going to be exposing themselves to a little bit of risk on the way out. A lot of teams on rotation will avoid Fragment because it does take you into low ground. There's a lot of spots you can get caught out in. Because the zone's pulling us a little bit further down, to the southwestern side of the map, they're also going to have to go through chokes. Now, they will be their choice of it, and as we know, World's Edge, very drilled, especially for the members of SEN, but making your way down to Harvester, or even over through Landslide, does carry a lot of risk with it. All the teams that are landing in Fragment and beyond are going to have to choose which of these risks they end up taking. First attempt already playing a little risky, but it's more 50-50 than anything, as there's a third party incoming on this as well.
Enemy able to get one knockdown, might get traded out. Firing up into the air, but the shield is broken. Stunny takes him down, gets that trade for the team, but it's chaos, it's pandemonium. Team's running everywhere. Source manages to get himself inside. Medkit utilized, get yourself back up into that one, but both teams with one player knocked, and down goes enemy for good. Stunny able to get the finish. Red Sea gets involved. Shoreline Mafia looking to take away this fight pretty convincingly here. It was a nice start there for first attempt, but it's just really not worked out for them, and this is a team that really needs these points, so getting knocked out at the start of the game could be really, really disappointing for them.
Careful, Retzi, careful, Retzi! We've seen so many games where he's gone down first, but this time, Shoreline Mafia do clean wipe Noxious Black, and having taken out Enemigo earlier, they actually do end up putting themselves in a position where the reverse third party isn't really going to happen. Nice presence of mind from Enemigo there as well. You'll notice that when he knew there was a Horizon coming down on top of him, he did as much damage as he could, not floundering around on the roof. It's that presence of mind does separate the wheat from the chaff in situations like those. We'll keep our eyes on the Pro League tenured players for those very same causes, for the fact that they can keep their heads on straight, really do the work when they absolutely need to. And maybe that'll be the difference for these squads. Nerf, for their part, with Messiah, the turret that they've had all day, really do need to make sure that they take good care of him, because as long as Nerf are backing up Messiah, things seem good. It is as soon as Messiah gets out a little too far, as soon as they lose control of this carry just a bit, things tend to go south for Nerf.
Yeah, Nerf really not had the best of days so far today. Only one top 5 game for them, and it's really disappointing for them. If there was ever a time that they were going to turn it around, now would be a beautiful, momentous moment. Lock it in, just trying to hold down this area, but teams coming in from both sides. Oriol's trying to get away, every member down on low HP. Oriol's the only player left. Lock it in, eliminated. That's just an unfortunate position.
An understandable mistake as well, playing for high ground. They neglect a lot of the other aggressive angles the teams can take on them. This is a great capitalization by bots, however. Throwing out the Singularity really doubles down on it. That is beautifully placed, pulling everyone into line of sight. And We Baguette are winners of Game 1, eliminated in 18th place this time around, with the bots continuing to pick up momentum after having moved themselves up to 3rd place. Will that all stop now, as they are getting third-partied? They didn't take that much damage. Underdogs do a nice bit themselves, but can't seem to access the building. In they come with the Evas a-flying, and stops, goes down. Arcstar to return, and there seems to be nothing that you can do on the inside with Eli. This still needing to push in. This could be the reverse card. Bots could take this. The damage is there, and they end up surviving a third party.
That's unbelievable. Just a couple whiffs. That's all it takes. And you just give them an in back into the fight. No finishes whatsoever. They keep everybody alive. Oh my. Underdogs. Oh, that's so heartbreaking.
It is, but I mean, imagine how good you feel as bots. You were 3rd place
yeah.
after last game. You've actually got a shot at being one of our top teams, and as is the case for as is not the case for so many teams, bots actually just needs to place well. They are one of those teams that is looking off of qualifier points alone. So keep our eyes on them and see how they do.
Oh no!
Did mention Nerf and their how things can go for them. It will surprise no one that Messiah ended up going down first, and then everyone else. So, as we talked about, that's game got away from him there.
Damn Esports, another team eliminated there. They're already at the bottom of the leaderboard right now for today. Unfortunately, just going to compound their issues heading forward here. Sky's now getting into an engagement. Again, this is such a quicker start to the game. Maybe yes, because World's Edge, but at the same time, this is completely different to the games we've seen earlier today. You can see everybody's warming up into this. You can see everybody is starting to hit their shots. They're starting to get more confident in their positioning. Retzi just trying to fire down from on high. The missiles come down. Zednim looking for a pick back, but this is so much more action-packed.
Nice off angle from Zednim as well. We know from 2 games ago that the beams out of Zednim with the car are just from another dimension. But they won't find Skies this time around, and I sort of thank the Lucky Stars for that. Though it's unlikely that squad survives for too much longer. Skies definitely impressed me in their few appearances in the preseason quals, because for a team that is relatively new to the Tier 2 scene, Skies, I think, might actually have a shot. They've been really consistent, and despite the fact that they are unlikely to make the Pro League off these preseason quals, you see them play through 1-2 seasons of Challenger Circuit, and this could be a Pro League-ready team in almost no time.
Absolutely. Oh, we're already at 12 squads left. The whole map's still open. A lot of space to work with here.
I'm looking at SCN's position. It's quite funny to me that they've ended up taking out a squad in Harvester, because a long time ago, SCN, previously known as XSET, used to just die contesting at Harvester. They were playing out of a POI, Harvester, that gives you almost no loot. They had not a respawn beacon, just a regular beacon to give you a little bit more information right next to it, and they died on that hill for almost a season and a half. And now that they've moved out and they're landing Fragment, they just get Harvester for free. Nobody's even there. They just walked in, they killed a squad that walked up to them, and now they're chilling.
Poetry.
And they're the only team in zone.
Poetry. It's just it's beautiful. It's all meant to be, you know? We're living the best timeline right now.
It's true.
I don't care who you support. We're living in the best timeline.
Yeah.
And they're going to be hoping they're in the best timeline for them at the very least, because this is a very important map now. Oh my lord, go! Oh, down. Shoreline Mafia move in. Looking to finish this one off quickly. And it's looking pretty easy for them. Psycho down as well. Only one player remains. Shoreline Mafia have been ramping. Some really good aggression so far this game.
Yeah, you can tell that, I mean, with all the experience this squad has, it is really paying off when we get to World's Edge, the map that everyone is the most practiced on. But their performances on Stormpoint are hurting them, and wow, that's hurting as well. Black Hand, the team in second place right now, just lost a member, and it's Too Howdy, a squad that you definitely don't want to be ego challenging in the mid game. Unlikely that they're able to get this banner back, as Cody gets some sweet loot from it, but it makes Blackhand's job all the more difficult, especially when we consider that SZN has already been picking up kills in this game, expanding the difference between these two squads.
Yeah. And as Zoo moves in now, we're going to see a little more engagement. We've had a little time to chat. We've had a little quiet area. Maybe not so quiet for Blackhand. They're going to be kicking themselves a little bit. Maybe, oh, well, not kicking. They're Blackhand. Slapping, I guess, themselves. A little punching. Whatever the equivalent of kicking is with a hand. Things are... You just don't want to put yourself in that position, but they have to now. Because there's that 16-point gap. That beam is good. Howdy just trying to hold down the tunnel here. Carrot's going to move through. Out go the missiles. That's a bit of damage. Yeah.
Quite a nice angle. It will still allow Blackhand to rotate around up top. Something that Howdy have barely any control of. It is just Cody up here. With the little bit of extra information that the Seer gives you, may be able to keep up the pressure, but Blackhand pushed into another dimension right up next to bots, and they end up losing DiffQ as well. 2 men sounded bad to be able to catch up to SCN. 1 person makes this a whole heck of a lot harder, especially when that 1 person is a Bangalore.
Yeah, it's never out of the question, but you really, really want to get good points this game. Otherwise, you're going to be in such an awkward position going into the last game. You never want to have to do something in the last game. That is not a nice place to be in. SCN have the privilege of, they don't even need to do anything whatsoever. They're pretty much through already on points. They don't need to worry. But that's nice, because there's no pressure on them, but they can gatekeep Blackhand.
They absolutely can. You notice that Bots was knocked by a Kraber shot there. That is A little wild card that we now have in the lobby. Overlooked have that in their hands, and playing up on the height just off to the northeast of Thermal Station. They've also got a pretty nice spot to be able to farm up some kills. We know that bots won't have to move, but MMW are not in that same very comfortable boat. Instead, having to make their way all the way out of Thermal Station when they gambled on an ending that we know simply isn't going to happen. They unfortunately didn't have access to a beacon earlier, it seemed, and or chose to play for a little bit more loot, slower game, sure, safe, because, well, points really matter to a squad that can still qualify based on them. However, now they've exposed themselves to a lot of risk, needing to move up to the eastern side of the map with no cover and not the old height on the Valkyrie rail, so they cannot cover nearly as much space.
A nice place for this game to end here for SCN. But it all depends on whether or not that zone moves in a little closer to Harvester, or whether they are going to have to drop from that location, because teams coming in from the west could capitalize off that if they get lucky. We'll just have to wait and see on that one. We're going to have a few minutes left until we get to that stage of the game. Man, oh no, that's a lot of shots. That's a lot of damage from Zednim. They've got such a beautiful position, such a great angle to fire down on top of this team.
If you think this position is good, I mean, so many times it gets even better. Shoreline Mafia get those next couple knocks. There's still one left, and now the res to come through. It doesn't seem like they're going to be capitalized on for having lost one, but farming up from the players that did have to enter this little ravine of doom. You've got a great spot for Shoreline Mafia, one where they've been able to accumulate even more kills. Even they, though, do need to start worrying about SZN. It is not just Black Hand that have to be worried about this contest. So many other squads rely on SZN not making it because they must make it to first place themselves. MMW trying to push this pace on the high ground, taken out, overlooked. Rather, 3 members of them now end up exposing themselves to that risk from Thermal and winning the fight. Unfortunately for them, they're just a little too much attention. Bots have rolled up on this as well.
Oh, bots could do so well here with this. Just trying to jump down on top of these players. That's a good first one. MMW eliminated. Bots looking very happy into this round. 3rd place. The last time we saw them in the standings, they're going to be a little on that next time. And this is another one of the teams that really, really, really wants these points. So that is great for them. Could sneak up behind Black Hand, and even if SCN don't do too well in the rest of the games. And hey, if you support Black Hand, they haven't got many kills this game, at least. They may have a beautiful position, but they don't have too many points in the bag right now, so hey. Yeah.
If you support Black Hand, you also really got to start worrying about bots, though. That's, I think, their 6th kill this game. I just had the number in my head, and I'm sorry, guys, it's gone. But suffice it to say, they're picking up a lot of kills this game, and from the height that they currently hold, it'll be a journey to make their way into what is a very odd and difficult zone to play, but it'll also be a journey that a team like this, or these individuals, have made before. For a lot of these players, it would be a return to Pro League more than anything, much like it would be for SZN. Bots are in that very same boat. And so, with their approach down into Harvester, we're expecting it to be well measured and likely take out a few other squads on the way. We do have Void standing in between them, or rather right next to them, for this little bit of a rotation. But a team that needs to make their way to a very similar position could just end up being even more kills for our lads on height right now. Blitz eating the zone damage, stung down to Retzi already as Shoreline Mafia collect the kills. And that is a lot of kills that they ended up getting. Everything went to Shoreline Mafia there.
That is beautiful for them, and they're looking for a little bit more. Bots just trying to find their way out of the location they found themselves in. They've had a great game already so far, but awkwardly stuck here now. And again, there's just still that looming threat of SCN towards that last area. Sky's eliminated. Things are getting a little hairy in the last 5 squads of the game.
That kill going over to SCN, by the way, and Black Hand going down. That is big.
No.
Still alive for so long, but taken out in 5th place. The points gap between they and SCN was always going to increase, but this time by so much more, especially because SCN have made it into the top 4, where every single place is going to mean more for them than the one before. Bots have very few ways of challenging them, nor does any squad really. Even with Howdy here on the low ground, no one's even close to pushing SZN off of this height, to making their life a little more difficult. Instead, SCN, they're the ones with luxury, and they're already pushing up to see if they can find even more kills on the Shoreline Mafia.
As well, they could just sit there and hold that space. They push up more, they want more of that. They want to just... domination, completely. Oof. Bots eliminated, though. Howdy managed to get another one. They'll get that res up as well. That's big for them. And that's, interestingly, gonna make Blackhand quite happy, because bots were catching up to them quite rapidly in this one. SCN, though, still the looming threat for both of those teams. I think bots were 26 points off the lead. They'll have narrowed that gap, but still, SCN stuck up here, and they're in the top 3 squads now. They don't have to do anything. They just get those placement points no matter what.
I mean, at this point, everyone's playing for themselves, of course, but to close that gap does require that you eliminate one squad as soon as possible. Shoreline Mafia, as a team that needs to get first place today, also has to pull out a miracle play. Howdy in the exact same boat. Everyone has to be focused on the squad that you know hasn't been eliminated at this point. You may not know exactly who's who, but you know that of the 2 squads in front of you, one of them is absolutely SZN, and from the confidence with which they're playing, I think Howdy can probably tell who. There goes the R-Star, a little bit far, but still getting nice damage in. The health bar blinking, as Howdy can see all of it. Thermite's not quite connecting, however, and Howdy, though they have ammunition, they have height, they have almost everything you could ask for, they don't have space just yet, and they're trying to take it now. Garrett crossing this vast ocean between the squads has already helped his teammates take out 2 members of SCN, makes it a 3rd, pushes them to top 2, SCN are out, and it's going to be Shoreline Mafia that now have to fight for the win.
And Howdy are picking up points by points by points. They're in 13th place currently. They need these points. Shoreline Mafia, they move in. They're going to try and take down Howdy now. There's just knocks after knocks. Redzy moves closer. Zedrin with the long-range engagement up in the air. Can Redzy hit that beam? He gets a little bit of damage, but he's going to take some damage himself. But Shoreline Mafia take that champion. They're going to be the winners of that game. Some points they sorely needed.
That was such a good finish for the Shoreline Mafia, and make no mistake, it is the one that they needed. We will be checking in on those standings, of course, after we finish the replays, after everything else, after the math is done. But I know that I am antsy, and that everyone at home is antsy to see a team that so many people are watching that is, as we called out at the start of the day, a fan favorite for sure, making a late entrance into the preseason qualifiers, finally finding themselves a win.
Oh. What a game. That is just drama capitulated. This is going to be so close now between these top teams. You got bots who got involved. They were already 26 points away from the win. Hand didn't have a great game. They're going to be a little further away from that win now, so they're going to be probably 3rd at this point, maybe 4th even, after the points that Shoreline Mafia put through. Shoreline Mafia and Howdy both in the kind of mid-table at the moment. They need a lot of points to catch up to that top, but it's not out of the question whatsoever. We saw Blackhand drop, 16 kills and get that 12 earlier on, so for a grand total of 28 points. You get 2 games like that from any position, you could pretty much get up to the top spot.
And the real difficulty for all these squads is shutting down SZN before it happens. We always talk about this when we enter the last couple games, but everyone knows where SZN lands, and especially in a preseason qual, everyone's asking themselves, why aren't people just landing on SCN to shut them down? And it's because it risks so much. But once we get into the mid-game, it is equally, if not more difficult, to actually find SCN and effectively shut them down. It just isn't an option, especially with anonymous mode on, as it has been for the past I'm going to say year and a half, maybe half a year. I lose track of time, but it does make things real difficult for squads that are trying to contest for that first place spot because they cannot effectively isolate their opponents. It has to come down to game sense, to quick rotations, and to being able to very quickly identify who your opponents are based on the way that they're fighting, based on sometimes even their skins, and that is so difficult when you're trying to survive against all of these other extraordinarily talented teams. You just can't commit the mental resources to doing things like this.
Yeah, it's gonna be such a brilliant last game. I'm so sad that we're not gonna be the ones casting this final game because Charlotte 20, 32 points for them. That'll rocket them up to the top of the standings here, I'm sure. A brilliant game for a lot of teams though. Bots, SCN, obviously, they just want to stay up on the top at this point. Howdy get involved too. Blackhand only 8 points overall is not a good way to be coming up into this one.
It keeps them, I won't say close.
In contention.
It still keeps them,
contention.
In contention, touching distance. But what you're relying on now is any singular team that wants to take the win away from SCN is that SCN have a bad game. And they have to know that. The thing is, whether they qualify in first, whether they qualify in second, whether they qualify in 20th, SCN are making. But now, as we talked about, the fates of other squads are in their hands, and as is so important, especially in preseason quals, but all throughout these players' pro careers that are coming up and are going to be on the line, being able to take your fate into your own hands is the most important thing, and I'm not sure how feasible it is when the gap between SZN and Shoreline Mafia, even Blackhand, is 20 points. That's a good game for any team.
I mean, you put up an insane amount of kills. You put up 16 kills, you win the game, like Blackhand did in that one victory of the day. Even then, you have to stop SCN from getting more than 7 points to win that overall standing. And that's difficult, because SCN, you could see what they were going for in that game. They were playing time. They just wanted to make sure that they were high up in those standings, and make sure they were high up in those standings. They did. They didn't need a lot of points. They got 8. They were happy with that. They come away 20 points ahead of Blackhand and Shoreline Mafia. And this is really going to be difficult. But there's 3 teams here, even 4 technically. Howdy. Okay, maybe not. Maybe not Howdy. But these 3 teams up towards the top that could knock SCN out of this one all need that win. They all really want that win. So this is just going to be, this is just going to be amazing.
I think if any 2 teams could do it, it would be Blackhand and Shoreline Mafia.
Right.
And like we say, it is a long shot. It requires that SCN lose control of this game. But Shoreline Mafia have an incredibly potent squad. They've got 2 of the premier members of Wingman Season. They've got Retzi of Sentinels. These guys frag out. It is almost in their name. And Shoreline Mafia, having put up last game, could absolutely duplicate those results. They can take this game away because all 3 of these teams are Pro League ready. Shoreline Mafia and SCN, because they've been there before, and Blackhand, because they have been training for this for 2 years now. To see which of these teams makes it out on top, I don't think disappointment is possible. It's just a matter of which story we are singing the praises of.
I'm very envious now of Mello and Tiff. This is going to be a brilliant final game to wrap things up. I cannot wait for it whatsoever. I mean, they couldn't have made it any better either season. SCN, sorry, they kept close enough that there's a chance for everybody in that top 4, but not far enough away that it's not out of the question. But it's going to be incredibly difficult, and that's exactly what we want. But please, SCN, let's play aggressively in this one. Let's make the drama happen. Let's not sit on the edge of the ring. Let's not play time, get the late rotations going. No. You're not going to play for position. You're going to play for kills, and that will get the script really rolling. That'll make us all happy. So please, if you're listening in, I'm not saying let's ruin the competitive integrity of the game, but it would be kind of cool, wouldn't it?
and to no squad in particular, because we are wrapping up our thoughts before this final game, we have seen these teams struggle throughout all the preseason qualifiers, meet with so many, not even failures, but just not first place finishes. To all of the squads out there, best of luck for the final game of the preseason qualifier.
Yeah, well, we are going to, that's it for me and Dia. But you are going to get to hear the lovely voices of Mello and Tiff. Once again, we're going to head to a short break, and we will be back with our final game of World's Edge, our final game of the preseason qualifiers. Stay tuned. This is not going to be one you want to miss.
Welcome back, y'all, and we are here. We are close to the final moments, the culmination of 4 weeks worth of qualifier play and one final game. 6 rings left to determine who walks away with a Pro League spot and who will have to be sent down to fight their way through challengers. My name is Mello, joined once again by the wonderful Spider Tiff, and there are so many teams right now that are peering over the edge. We've already talked plenty about one, but this is down to the wire.
Down to the wire, indeed. And I feel like there's a nice wig somewhere out there with a watch party who's going to be spectating a lot of these players. And we all know how that goes anytime he watches some of these players. He's like, this team's going to win. They've got the God spot. They're going to do great. That team is eliminated 5 minutes later, or maybe 5 seconds later. It all depends. So I'd be really curious to see kind of how his watch party is going. But for those of you that are here with us, you are right. Game 6 of 6. The finale is here with Pro League Split 1 on the horizon. This is it. If you are here and you are cheering on for any of the teams that have to make or break it in this game to win, I'm curious. Show it out in chat. Show your love, because this is going to be chaotic.
And we are starting the chaos off. Look at that Fragment East drop. Look at the colors, Tiff. Who else would it be other than Blackhand? They know what they have to do. They have to take out SZN to have a chance here, and they've already taken out 2. Kenny is the last one standing for SZN. He's gonna get the res onto Hack. It looks like Blackhand might have overplayed their hand, and I think we've had a bit of an issue with the names, but I think, Tiff, they've been eliminated.
Look, we were talking about this.
Oh,
I knew coming into this moment, I was like, here's the deal. This could be a thing, but we knew there were teams that were landing in Frag West, and as soon as they heard that gunfight happening, look at Team Nerf. They're coming in, and they are ready to go on that aggressive hunt. SZN able to get that res off, but now this is the moment. I was like, oh my God, they're going to throw both of their games.
That could have been it right there, but it looks like we're going to survive it for now. It'll be just one last team that has really a chance against this SZN squad. But of course, SZN is still alive, and they've got the crypto, which of all the situations where you would want a crypto, I mean, recovering that banner off of eliminating the one team that could potentially dethrone you for your spot at the top of the leaderboard, I couldn't even write. The scripts aren't even creative enough to come up with these.
I mean, my heart, they knew what they had to do. They were 20 points down coming into this game, and SZN has been incredibly consistent. But look at Nerf pushing in, finding a knock and a full onto Kenny. And I mean, I'm kind of shaking, Mela. I wasn't expecting it. We were kind of like, oh yeah, that could happen, but that's not going to happen. They wouldn't do that. They're going to get thirded and inted insanely quickly. And now Nerf doing what they do best, just trying to live their best life. But I mean, they're sitting in 13th place coming into this. They don't really have anything to lose. They have to get as many elimination points. And even then, they would have to score, I mean, 50 plus points here to take the dub.
It would be a hefty affair. But it's not all bleak. We do have one other squad to talk about, and that is a team that was tied up with Blackhand coming into this final game. Shoreline Mafia put up a colossal performance in game number 5, and they are sitting on 50 points. So with SZN in shambles, if SZN falls before they can rack up any points, Shoreline Mafia just needs 20 points to tie. And based on the score lines from the previous games that we've experienced, we know everyone's putting up double digits. They're putting up 10 to 15 kill games. They're putting up 27 points per game. They could certainly do it here.
Yeah, Akimbo going in with the charge rifle and the car SMG. We saw them upgrade that charge rifle for the Kraber last time, trying to find some success here. Loses Gymnastic, Akimbo within 1 inch of their life, and Snoopy just kind of disengaging from that fight. And now 2 down. Watson, last man standing for this team, and just trying to disengage from that situation now. Not sure if they're going to be able to push back in. Did another team decide to int onto this area?
It looks like it, and I mean, I'm not going to lie, this is something that we're all too familiar with. The Game 6 end of qualifier, really end of 4-week preseason qualifier. I mean, it's just how it goes down. People are more than happy to take fights at this point, but there's plenty of teams that are fighting for their spot still. Because keep in mind, if SZN actually makes it through, and right now all the shots coming through from B. Borton are making it through onto Snoopy, that's going to be overlooked ENT, excuse me, though they are certainly overloaded with pressure right now, are the ones on the losing side of this engagement for the time being. But again, another team that might certainly be looking to pick up kills and points on their way out.
Oh my gosh, and Song charge rifle in hand, trying to throw down some damage as teams are falling left and right. I see Zed, I see Retzi going down in the elimination feed. This is going to be spicy. And one of those areas you see Skies coming in hot, trying to make something happen and throwing down so much damage. They are able to get the down and the full on to High Psycho.
And this seems kind of like a victory lap, and a bid farewell a little bit to some of these teams. So definitely have to shout out Skies right now, putting on the pressure, but eating a lot of it themselves. Skies, a team that has really shown up in these qualifiers, and you should certainly expect to see them grinding through that challenger circuit. Right now, they're trying to grind through their opponents, doing an okay job, but Your Doom is down to flesh. They're going to commit the bubble just to recover, have a little bit more defense, and I believe Team 1 is SCN. I could be wrong here. Might wait for our good friend Dia to confirm that for us, but in fact, that could be SCN out somewhere around 15th place, so this opens up the board massively.
Well, here's the deal. This is where it's going to be spicy. SZN's out. Shoreline Mafia is out as well. And Sky's just hanging on by the knockdown shield of the teammate outside in the ring. Does have that Phoenix kit available to utilize. Now, just going to be able to pop that. The question is, there are still so many teams in this area. And now just going to try to push in and maybe clean this up. Actually, they might be all right. Maybe they abandoned them. No, they're not. This little 1v1 right here. You can take it. You can win this. Knockdown, be knocked down. So much damage going out with the car. Just push it and clean it up. You've got this. But taking so much damage, and they're both going to go out.
Is there time for a med or a syringe? Ooh, that'll be a little bit close. But right now, we're going to pop over to MMW, who is currently taking a fight over north of Thermal, and they're dealing so much damage. Arcstars, everything is on fire. Zainu is on fire and is down on the ground with it. This is going to be a full push for MMW. They are looking for the kills that they absolutely need to continue climbing. Keep in mind, even if SZN ends up winning this, plenty of teams are still fighting for contention, and that might have actually opened up yet another spot. So MMW, bots, we've got, I mean, first attempt, we've got Nerf. They are all still fighting for every bit that they can get.
Look, I mean, We are just getting started and we're already down to 10 teams. This is an absolute chaotic mess, resulting in Horizon fist punching people to just kind of seal the deal on that team elimination and MMW on your screen. But let's go ahead and talk about where that ring is pulling. We're going to countdown, and all of the teams that are already kind of just setting themselves into that area. I see Void, I see Bots, we've got Bronzy in that squad, and just some teams coming in from the north, just clearing that out with the Skyhook in the back. But all the teams that are still chilling into frag, I'm expecting Nerf and Co to fight Wee Wee Baguette very shortly.
Wee Wee Baguette has had quite the showing. They did have one big game, but like we hammered in so often, it's about consistency. It's about being able to perform up against the best of the best in these qualifiers. Not just one game, not just a couple games, but every single game. We've seen SZN do that pretty much throughout the entirety of these qualifiers. I mean, 2 second places in the finals of across 4 qualifiers, and then potentially taking down the last one just for, you know, just for the hell of it. Beautiful stuff here from so many of these teams, and I can't wait to see these teams move through the Pro League. But of course, a lot of other teams might still be just on the outside looking in and could do it here, Tiff. This is getting a little bit too tense for me because the points are going to be a photo finish here.
Photo finish, indeed. And, you know, I feel like Dia said it best. He was like, that was in the EMEA cast. That was a little bit earlier today. So congrats to all the teams from EMEA that will be advancing on to Pro League Split 1. But he was like, it is a spooky day. Yeah, it's Halloween. Spooky things are going to be happening. Curses are going to be happening. Just vibes all around. It's just been wild. So for the teams that are going to be making it out of this bloodbath, I mean, let's go. Bots on your screen right now. G7 Scout in hand as a typical moment. Just trying to lay down some poke fighting to the enemies in the distance. Able to get a shield crack on their Seer, but just kind of nestled up for now. A little calm after the chaotic storm of that beginning game.
Yeah, that's sometimes how it goes. Game number 6, 10 squads left, ring number 2 about to start closing, and this is pulled over towards the northwest side, over towards Countdown, in fact. And already we see the teams that are really prioritizing controlling this zone. They are not switching up their game plan. They know they have to find kills. They know that they have to do everything they can to fight for that win. That is 12 points or a dub and whatever other kills they can pick up on the way. So just a quick reminder, this is far from over, and this is first attempt, who definitely didn't have their first attempt here at the qualifiers, but it could be their last, and it could be the one that sneaks them into Pro League. I believe they're about there. I'm not the best at math. I'm not going to call it here, but again, another great showing, and they're going to continue to do that in game number 6.
I mean, if you're going to do it, you go out in style, hit some nasty 30-30 shots, and just show just why you are the way you are. You're incredibly talented, but looks like right here, Blinks on screen, a little bit worse for wear in this situation. But I do love to see an Octane come out in the competitive scene. Why not have some fun? You've got the Bloodhound, but you're kind of gone at that point. And now just everyone trying to make their way into the ring. We've got Team Nerf just on the south side of your screen, trying to make a play in an engagement. And, you know, maybe, I was going to say hit your shots just a little bit, but that
Just
tracking was kind of spicy. Tracking was tough.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would not be doing a much better job myself, and that's why these guys are the pros. This is why they're the ones in the finals of the last preseason qualifier here, right on the precipice of year number 3 Pro League. And now this team is doing a lot of damage up in this cave. They're showing that they want that Pro League spot, or they're willing to play like they already got it. That's going to be Force going down. Messiah still up and turns plenty healthy as well. They're creating out damage. It's actually T Breezy going down. So Force did find a trade, but Messiah actually the next one to go down, and suddenly a 2v1 situation turns. Is going to try to hold onto it for dear life, but it will not be the case, and they are knocked out.
No, they needed to stay in that for just at least a little bit longer. They were able to pick up a north of 4 eliminations, but I don't think it was much more than that. But they were the team that kind of pushed in on SZN and Blackhand near the start of this match. And now we're just looking at MMW. You see the ultimate's going out and towards them, and now shooting it, not able to destroy it just yet, but still getting tagged up from a distance. But oh, that Arcstar is going to prove to be incredibly frivolous. And now just getting caught out and punished from pushing that team in the open. We saw Sung just going down right there. Oh no, able to get away with an inch of their life and is fully resetting with a Phoenix kick. Come on.
Yeah, there is just so much action happening right now, and these are two of the teams that are really trying to vouch for themselves, right? Trying to make a name, make a claim to that Pro League spot. They have eliminated MMW, who is no longer in contention with that 8th place finish, and I believe this is going to be the next walk-up that might help them get into zone near the back. They're going to be pretty safe. They have a crafter at their disposal as well. No one's going to be looking their way. World Class is here just a little bit late on the draw. No third party to be had. And for the time being, holding strong in the middle is still first attempt.
I mean, just chill there. Live your best life. Set up camp. Be vibe. Someone's going to come and contend for that real estate, obviously, as soon as these rings really start kind of navigating down to that final, as you see kind of outlined right there. But you've still got a lot of teams making that rotation in World Class just on the south of your screen. They're making their rotation in between behind Howdy. You've got Void out to the left side in a relatively free, uncontested rotation just until the north side of Countdown. So it's going to be just a moment of just a little bit of relaxation for these teams, just getting their way into those final zones, because I mean, at this point there would have already been 15 teams still left in this zone, but leave it to game 6 vibes to have something totally different.
Yeah, the vibes are strong. The vibes are certainly questionable in terms of the plays that those vibes are causing, but we're here for it. We're here to enjoy the last couple of moments, because as I can see here on my screen, MMW has been knocked out. Nerf has been knocked out, and I believe that means bots might have just shoved their way into the final Pro League qualifying spot. Again, I won't call the race here quite yet, because the leaderboard will ultimately be the ones telling us that. But what a great showing from that team. They're still sitting up on the north side, and they're likely the ones that will have to deal with this team over on the west. That's, of course, going to be Void, who might be looking for one dub to go out with a bang.
Yeah, this is going to be really spicy depending on how bots finishes this out. They came into this map sitting in 4th place, 4 points behind Blackhand and Shoreline Mafia. If they get anywhere further, which I'm sure they're going to rack up all the placement points, they're just jutting themselves up on that leaderboard and getting as many Pro League qualifier points as possible. But Jelly going on under fire from an Arc Star right now, and it's going to get a little chaotic. I kind of like where Dalton and Paps are, but they're kind of just safe, but they are going to have to push into that area. And I say safe, and Kodagami coming in with that G7 scout, full sending on to T-Breezy. They should be able to navigate the banner, just kind of nestle in there, but does get shot. Was that a bow? Is someone bowing Paps right now?
Oh no, they're eating that damage. They do get the shield swap here though, but they're quickly running out of space to work with. They're gonna call down this res beacon to hopefully pick up their third and continue to pry into this next ring, and we get to see where it ends. Dead center nearly on Countdown, right where first attempt has been holding on and hanging out for the better part of the last 3-4 minutes at very least. And right now we get to see Cody, Garrett, and Kodagami also polishing off one more squad on their way to the top 6.
You just gotta take it as it goes. Bots right now in a double exhibit fight on the north side of Countdown, and Void getting spicy. Craver in hand with Blitz, trying to make something happen. Sung getting a lot of damage, but going in the Beast of the Hunt, throwing out those Arc Stars and just trying to finesse as much as they can. This is going to be the end of bots.
Oh my goodness. That is actually going to make things so interesting depending on how much they picked up there. They might have been just a couple of points short. I'm not exactly sure. I'm so nervous at this point. I don't want to call it for anyone. Let's just enjoy the last few moments that we have with these fantastic teams. Top 4 here, round 4 closing. The numbers match, which must mean it's a good game, right? That's how this works. And yeah, we'll get to see this endgame play out in Countdown, pulling back over, in fact, towards Howdy.
How many times are we going to have this talk where we're like, oh, we think the ring is going to pull here, and then it does a complete 180 and goes to the other side of the map. But Howdy is absolutely reveling in the fact that they get a little shred of that next circle. And I think if they play this incredibly smart, the issue is you've got Enemigo, Saucer, and Bronzy that have been holding this building down till the very end. And sure, they're going to be a little bit in the ring. Remember when I said, hey, someone is going to come for that real estate, and I think the time is near.
Yeah, the time is there, and really no one holding it for the time being, because honestly, you can't. It's one of those rings where you can't just get in early and hold it forever. You're going to get looked at by every single squad left on the map. We are down to the top 4. We still have First Attempt here, who has made quite a showing. They've made a massive statement here on their way to a Pro League qualification. So I think all of these teams would appreciate a nice bow on top of the end of these preseason qualifiers. And as we just prepare for this Pro League start that comes in a couple of weeks, we get to enjoy some of the caliber of the teams that will be in Challenger Circuit, hopefully making a big name and making a big push towards Split 2.
Ooh, Kraber in hand of Blitz. I'm ready to see something absolutely wild. Does get peppered shots, but that's at the risk of peeking. Sometimes when you've only got a little bit of cover to play with, there's not much room to work with, but that team is going to take to the air. I'd love to see a nice little Kraber shot to just get a little wild, maybe take one down, but gonna go ahead and send it. That's gonna be World Class moving in on Howdy right now, and time to get spicy, taking a little bit of the high ground. Gonna hit that grab lift. Cody trying to find some damage, falls right back down. CRQ going out, lots of information, and this is just feeling like a little bit of a carnival ride at this point.
Yeah, and the hip fire is just coming out in every direction, because really can't make heads from tails right now with the way that engagement went down. And it actually is Howdy that ends up dropping. They get landed on from the height, but that is the team that survives. Jelly and I Am Frost, the last members of that squad, will have to try and play this out as a duo. We have Void down below. I believe we have the last members, or the full member stack of First Attempt. That's just chilling up on this high ground, holding angles, but Blitz is holding a Kraber.
Yeah, Blitz, Kraber in hand. We have 3 teams remaining. That's going to be Void, World Class, and First Attempt. Things are about to get spicy. Mind you, World Class coming into this in 17th place. Void coming to this in 18th place. And now, just getting wild on the look. That ground is going to be First Attempt finally out of their building. And now Saucerer and Bronzy trying to make something happen, but just getting inundated and stunned. And Bronzy taking so much damage will fall. Saucerer still last alive. But check out the Seer taking to the sights with the Kraber. I feel like if he would have hit a shot like that, it would have been something out of an Apex Legends cinematic, but does not connect. But trying to clean this up now is almost over. Look at that beautiful moment right there. Void coming out on top here in game number 6.
They are going out with the bang, sending First Attempt to the Void. Of course, that Void will lead them straight to their Pro League spot that they've just secured per that performance. But I mean, a bit of a fiesta there to close things out, but it's always a blast to see these teams having a good time, just fighting it out. You have to put some respect on the Black Hand name, though. I mean, that play, and I'll say you're the oracle of this game. You called it, you said, what if? You know what? Probably. And lo and behold, it came through. Not exactly the result that maybe they had hoped for, but I mean, you got to respect the attempt.
I mean, I was literally just saying that to Dia. I was like, Dia, I said that right before we went live with game number 6. I was like, look, I don't want to say it, but what if Blackhand does land on SZN? And you're like, no, there is going to be people in Frag West. Someone is going to int that immediately as soon as those shots start coming out. And it looked promising at first, and I respect everything that they were trying to do. I mean, they were 20 points down coming into map number 6. It was do or die for them. And I mean, if you're a Blackhand fan in chat, just stand up it right now. Just give them a clap. I'm sure they're going to frag out and do amazing in challengers, and this will not be the last we see of Blackhand. This is only the beginning.
Yeah, this is only the beginning. They've been around for a minute, and they are not going anywhere anytime soon. And here we get to see sort of the final moments of SZN, who truly a dominant performance at this point. It was their time. They had it coming. If they weren't going to take it in qualifier points, they were certainly going to come for a win of their own, joining the likes of Team Smiley, Rack Attack, and our first qualifier winners, Esports Arena. Plenty of teams here. They had a lot at stake. There were plenty of opportunities for them to make their claim to that Pro League spot. They did everything they could. You see all of these fights, so much just aggression towards the end, trying to fight out every which way. But ultimately, it does end up being Void who gets to leave this qualifier with a nice win on their name, or rather their name on a win, and a good amount of motivation, I hope, for the Challenger Circuit coming up.
Oh, look at this from Howdy right there. They had such great positioning, unable to really seal the deal in game number 6, but Void just finding constant success in every engagement. And I respect the fly-in here from World Class and taking high ground away from that team. That was the way to go, and then going straight in onto first attempt, and first attempt being so inundated with damage from that prior fight, then Void setting all sights onto them, and it was just all downhill for first attempt from there. But let's go ahead and take a look at the game 6 results on your screen. Void with a 25-point game. But like I said, they came into this South, I believe, in 18th place with 12 points. So that's going to jut them up to 37 points. World Class, 16 elimination or points in general. First attempt, making it that long game, but they were set up in that building for so long that they only took home 1 elimination. So 8 points for them.
And yeah, we have to shout out some of the teams that right now are going to be part of our photo finish, because with the scoreboard we'll get to watch in a second, you'll get to see what has just occurred, what has just transpired. And that's the fact that SZN has won, which on paper is like, whatever. Yeah, they won. But that actually opened up a whole other floodgate of potential teams that have made their way into contention. SZN, round of applause for this team. They grinded through all 4 qualifiers, all 4 finals. They were sort of the staple name that we kept coming back to over and over again, just continuing to show that they belong with the best of the best. So you will be seeing them in Pro League. You will be seeing them along all of the big names that we know and love. But let's check out what kind of damage they did to the leaderboard, not because they're in first, but in fact, because so many of the other teams still had to try and grind for first place. And with SZN winning, that's kind of opened things up a little bit.
Yeah, because they were set to kind of qualify just on points alone, but garnering that position will fall to another team. And look at that. Shoreline Mafia and Blackhand both unable to move from that 50-point spot, and then Bots unable to jut up that leaderboard. They only needed, I believe, 6 points, or maybe it was 16 points to make a threshold to move past that 50, but unable to do it, just shy. 49 points for them. Howdy, 48 points. Mello, I know that everyone has been calculating behind the scenes kind of what this is going to mean for those teams that were looking to qualify from points alone. And unofficially, how has that math kind of turned out?
Well, look, since we had so much help in the back, and thankfully we have some friends helping us, I will take responsibility in case the math is wrong. Just kidding, it was Dia. It looks like, based solely on points, we will be seeing BR Demons, who had locked it in earlier yesterday, I believe, with the end of their semifinals performance. We have Slept On, who we knew is already locked in, and we get First Attempt locking it in. They had to get better than 12, so they will be joining Pro League as well. And Bots, it's none other than Bots, who will be locking in that spot based on the Pro League qualification points. The preseason qualification points go their way. They perform just well enough. They beat out the other opponents that were scrapping for that spot, and they will also be joining Pro League.
I feel, Mello, that's like a really great moment for you, considering after the first 2 maps, you were kind of like, Bots, right? They need this. They need a really shining star moment, but they were kind of at a donut after map number 1, and you were like, no, this is going to be totally fine. He's reassuring me behind the scenes that Bots is going to do fantastic, and I'm like, I can't speak to anything because I am a walking curse. We have caster curses. They are real. I will prove, we've proved them. But regardless, he was like, they are one of those teams that may start a little bit slower, but warm up throughout that map series, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to see Stompies in the ranks of Pro League once again, and the way that they worked the map, the way that they maneuvered some of the really difficult situations. Again, maybe not the success they looked for in every single individual qualifier, but it's all about consistency. That's one thing that I hope, if anyone is walking away from this, it's consistency, being consistent, sticking to your game plan, executing your game plans, not worrying so much about what the lobby is doing around you, but how you're going to work that lobby for your benefit. That's what it comes down to. So congratulations again to all of the teams that have made it through this thing. Thank you so much, Spider Tiff, for joining me on the desk. It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you to Dia and Twiggy, who held down the other half of the games. Thank you to TorchProd for putting this guy together. Thank you to everyone, all of the TOs as well, because they have a massive amount of players to get through. And thank you everyone watching at home. Hopefully we'll catch you guys for the Challengers League, and you don't want to miss the start of Pro League.